Session is resumed. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we now proceed with the reference of business and request the Secretary General be directed to read the titles of bills, resolutions on first reading, as well as communication and committee reports. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
Any objection? There being none, Secretary General is directed to read the titles of the bills for first reading.
Additional reference of business, bills on first reading, House Bill 8198, converting the Balamban Extension Campus of the Cebu Technological University in Balamban, Cebu into a regular campus, Representative Garcia Pablo-Jan.
To the Committee on Higher and Technical Education.
House Bill number 8201, establishing a developmental standardization and incentivization framework for the establishment of smart cities and municipalities nationwide, Representative Garcia Pablo-Jan.
The Committee on Local Government and the Committee on Information and Communications Technology.
House Bill number 8210, mandating the CHED to create a tripartite council to address job skills mismatch in the country, Representative Go Mark.
To the Committee on Higher and Technical Education.
House Bill number 8211, providing for tax incentives on development of economic and medium-cost housing, Representatives Romero, Liachon, and several others.
The Committee on Housing and Urban Development.
House Bill number 8213, further amending the contractors licensing law, Representative Sarmiento.
To the Committee on Trade and Industry.
House Bill number 8214, establishing a provincial office of the PRC in Catarman, Northern Samar, Representative Dasa.
The Committee on Civil Service and Professional Regulation.
House Bill number 8215, mandating all toll operators of all major expressways in Mega Manila to establish and utilize a standard and unified electronic toll collection system in the form of RFID, Representative C. Alvarado.
The Committee on Transportation.
Resolutions. House Resolution 1416, directing the government of the Republic of the Philippines through the diplomatic efforts of the DFA to take further steps to recover and preserve the Katipunan documents, Representative Nieto.
To the Committee on Foreign Affairs.
House Resolution 1420, commending the late Don Conrado A. Escudero for dedicating his life towards the protection and preservation of the country's rich cultural heritage, history, customs, and natural beauty, Representatives Velasco, Romualdez, Ferdinand, Paduano, and
The
Berga.
Committee on Rules.
Communications, letters from several city mayors on the utilization and status of programs, project
The Committee on
activities.
Appropriations.
Letter dated 26 October of Cecilia C. Borromeo, President and CEO, Land Bank of the Philippines.
Committee on Appropriations.
Letter dated November 11 of Josue S. Geversa Jr., Assistant Secretary for Financial
Committee on
Management.
Appropriations.
Email dated November 20 of Christine D. Lazaro, OIC, Internal Audit Unit.
Committee on Appropriations.
Emails dated November 24 from the Pampanga PPDO, Planners.
Committee on Appropriations.
Letter dated 7 December of Janice G. Aison Sales.
Committee on Banks and Financial Intermediaries.
Committee reports, report number 667 on House Bill number 8218, report numbers 668 and 669 on House Bill numbers 8221 and 8224, report number 670 on House Resolution 1418, report number 671 to 674 on House Bill numbers 8225 to 8228, report number 675 to 682 on House Bill numbers 94, 4700, 6066, 5453, 6152, 6169, 8236, and 6440. Report number 684.
The Committee on Rules.
Majority Leader, sir.
Majority Leader.
A minute of suspension, Mr. Speaker.
Session is suspended.
Boss.
Session is resumed. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, under the calendar of business for the day, I move that we consider House Bill number 8057 as contained in Committee Report number 607. So move, Mr. Speaker.
Any objection? Hearing none. Secretary General is directed to read the title of such bill.
Mr. Speaker, I move that the chairperson
House Bill number 8057, an act instituting the Magna Carta of Filipino seafarers.
Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we recognize the chairperson of the committee, the Honorable Mike Aglipay of Diwa Party List, to begin sponsorship of the measure. So move, Mr. Speaker.
The Honorable Mike Aglipay is recognized to begin the sponsorship of the measure.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to make a correction. I am not the chairperson of the committee, but the principal author of the bill. I am sponsoring it now for our almost 2 million seafarers who are majority in survival mode. And this bill will greatly help them in this pandemic to secure their rights and their families while here and abroad. So I hope that my colleagues and the leadership can act on this bill. That's all, Mr. Speaker.
The manifestation is noted. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, there being no interpellators, I move that we terminate the period of sponsorship and debate. So move, Mr. Speaker.
Any objection? There being none, the motion is approved. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we open the period of amendments.
Any objection? Hearing none. Motion to open. The period of amendment is approved. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we suspend session for a few minutes.
Motion is suspended.
Session resumed. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move to suspend consideration of House Bill number 8057. So move, Mr. Speaker.
Is there any objections? Chair hears none. Motion is approved. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, we'd like to acknowledge the presence of His Excellency Han Dang-mon, the Ambassador Extraordinary and Plenipotentiary of the Republic of Korea in the Philippines. Alongside with the Excellency is Mr. Kim Myung-jin, the Second Secretary of the Korean Embassy to the Philippines. Today, it is a farewell call by our Speaker, Honorable Speaker, Lord Alan J.Q. Velasco, on His Excellency. Mr. Speaker, last December 7, 2020, the House adopted House Resolution number 1405, adopted as Resolution number 124, commending the contributions and efforts of His Excellency Han Dong-man as Ambassador Extraordinary and Plenipotentiary of the Republic of Korea to the Philippines in fostering Philippines-Korea bilateral relations. Mr. Speaker, we are privileged to have with us today His Excellency Han Dong-man, Ambassador Extraordinary and Plenipotentiary of the Republic of Korea to the Philippines. May I request that the Ambassador Han Dong-man be invited to the rostrum to receive the copy of the resolution. Mr. Speaker, I move that the Secretary General be directed to read the title and the resolution.
We welcome and invite to proceed to the rostrum His Excellency Han Dong-man, Ambassador Extraordinary and Plenipotentiary of the Republic of Korea to the Philippines. The Secretary General is directed to read the title and text of the resolution.
Republic of the Philippines, House of Representatives, House Resolution 124, commending the contributions and efforts of His Excellency Han Dong-man as Ambassador Extraordinary and Plenipotentiary of the Republic of Korea to the Philippines in fostering Philippines-Korea bilateral relations. Whereas His Excellency Han Dong-man was designated as Ambassador Extraordinary and Plenipotentiary of the Republic of Korea to the Republic of the Philippines on January 17, 2018. Whereas, as an expert in policy trade planning, trade and public relations, Ambassador Han joined the diplomatic corps in 1985 and has served in countries such as Algeria, United Kingdom, Australia, and the United States of America. Whereas, it is fitting to recognize the contributions of outgoing Republic of Korea Ambassador to the Philippines, His Excellency Han Dong-man, who performed exemplary services in fostering not only stronger Philippine-Korea bilateral relations, but also deeper people-to-people engagement between the Philippines and South Korea. Whereas, through His Excellency's untiring efforts, exchanges between the Philippines and South Korea increased even further as evidenced by the signing of agreements by the two countries in areas of tourism, fisheries, education, and social security during the official courtesy visit of President Rodrigo Roa Duterte to President Moon Jae-in in Seoul, November 2019. Whereas, during Ambassador Han's tenure, there's an increase in trade and investment between the Philippines and South Korea. In 2019, South Korea was the fifth largest trading partner of the Philippines and solo its third highest import source, and 6th highest export destination. Moreover, the Philippine Republic-Korean Free Trade Agreement, which is seen as a significant step forward to a stronger economic partnership between the two countries, is already in the final stages of negotiation and is nearing completion. Whereas, His Excellency likewise oversaw increased South Korean support to the Philippines, such as his $1 billion commitment in the form of consensual loans from the Korean Economic Development Cooperation Fund to finance multiple infrastructure projects in the country. Whereas, through the efforts of Ambassador Han, the Philippines has become a top destination of Korean tourists. Korean tourists visiting the country has ballooned from 1.6 million visitors in 2017 to almost 2.2 million by the end of 2019. Whereas Ambassador Han also supervised Republic of Korea projects as a turnover of numerous naval vessels as part of contributions to Philippine maritime security, the humanitarian efforts for those affected by various natural disasters, such as the Mayon volcano eruption, Typhoon Ompong, Mindanao earthquake, and Taal volcano eruption, and assistance in tackling the COVID-19 pandemic. Whereas, the warm and gentle yet energetic personality of His Excellency masterly reflects the characteristics of modern-day South Korea, a vibrant democracy, a dynamic economy, and a society that perfectly blends traditional values with contemporary pop culture. Therefore, be it resolved by the House of Representatives to commend the contributions and efforts of His Excellency Han Dong-man as Ambassador Extraordinary and Plenipotentiary of the Republic of Korea to the Philippines in fostering Philippines-Korea bilateral relations. Adopted, signed, Lord Alan J. Q. Velasco, Speaker, House of Representatives.
Mr. Speaker, in order to allow our members to meet and extend their greetings to our distinguished guests, I move that we suspend our session for a few minutes.
Session is suspended.
Okay na?
Ay, nakabonus ngayon.
Bigyan mo na ako ng PS, ha?
Session resumed. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, last November 18, 2020, the House adopted House Resolution 1365, adopted as House Resolution number 122, commending the Honorable Attorney Joselia Bighani Cuevas Sipin for her exemplary performance and dedicated service as Secretary General of the House of Representatives. Mr. Speaker, we have with us today the former Secretary General Joselia Bighani Cuevas Sipin. May I request that the former Secretary General Sipin be invited to the rostrum to receive a copy of the resolution. Mr. Speaker, I move that the Secretary General be directed to read the title and text of the resolution.
We welcome and invite former Secretary General Joselia Bighani Sipin to proceed to the rostrum. The Secretary General is directed to read the title and text of the resolution.
Republic of the Philippines, House of Representatives, House Resolution 122. Resolution commending the Honorable Attorney Joselia Bighani Cuevas Sipin for exemplary performance and her dedicated service as Secretary General of the House of Representatives. Whereas, the Honorable Secretary General Attorney Joselia Bighani Sipin has dedicated her life to public service, starting for her student days when she served in the University Student Council of the University of the Philippines, Diliman, to her tenure as legal officer at the Department of Agrarian Reform, and later on as court attorney of the Court of Appeals. Whereas, she rose from the ranks of the Congressional Staff and the Secretariat, serving among others as Chief of Staff of several members of the House of Representatives, including Speaker Lord Alan Q. Velasco, and as Deputy Director of the Joint Congressional Energy Commission. Whereas, after her election as the youngest ever Secretary General of the House of Representatives, she shepherded the Secretariat through a period of transition of leadership in former duties. Without whose dedication, the House of Representatives passed the 2021 General Operations Bill among other priority legislative measures. Whereas, true to her values of servant leadership, she led the Secretariat in the accomplishment of noble endeavors such as COVID-19 testing and monitoring system to ensure a safer and healthier workplace for all, and spearheaded mula sa Kongreso para sa Filipino our relief operations for the victims of the recent consecutive calamities that struck the country. Whereas, she gained the respect and admiration of the Secretariat as she exhibited enthusiasm, exuberance in her duties, serving as an inspiration to her peers, and exemplifying a true public servant who rose from the ranks to his complete competence, integrity, and commitment to public service as a public task. Whereas, it is with the consensus and sentiment of members of the House of Representatives, the officials and employees of the Secretariat, the Congressional staff, to give due recognition and to express their profound gratitude and appreciation to Honorable Secretary General. Now, therefore, be resolved as is hereby resolved by the House of Representatives to commend the Honorable Attorney Joselia Bighani Cuevas Sipin for exemplary performance and her dedicated service as Secretary General of the House of Representatives during the 18th Congress. Signed, Lord Alan J. Q. Velasco, Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, in order to allow our members to extend their greetings to former Secretary General Sipin, I move that we suspend our session for a few minutes.
Session is suspended.
Sir.
Turn your documents.
For the
Session is resumed. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move to resume consideration of House Bill number 8057, the status of which is we are in the period of amendments. So move, Mr.
Is
Speaker.
there any objection? There being none, the motion is approved.
Mr. Speaker, there being no committee amendments, I move that we now proceed to consider the individual amendments. So move, Mr. Speaker.
Is there any objection? Hearing none, the motion is approved.
Mr. Speaker, there being no member who wishes to introduce individual amendments, I move that we close the period of individual amendments. So move, Mr. Speaker.
No objection. There being none, the motion is approved.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we close the period of amendments.
No objection. There being none, the motion to close the period of amendments is approved.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we vote on second reading House Bill number 8057. So move, Mr. Speaker.
No objection. There being none, motion is approved. All those in favor of the measure, please say aye. Those against, please say nay. The ayes have it. House Bill 8057 is now approved on second reading. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move to welcome the guest of the Honorable Deputy Secretary Rodante Di Marcoleta, his guest, Ms. Fina R. Javier from Chicago, USA. So move, Mr. Speaker.
The guest of Deputy Speaker Marcoleta, that's myself, Ms. Fina R. Javier from Chicago, USA, is recognized. Welcome to the House of Representatives, Ms. Fina Javier. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, with leave of the House, I move that we open the privilege hour. So move, Mr. Speaker.
No objection, there being none. Privilege hour is resumed.
Mr. Speaker, I move to recognize the Honorable Sergio Dagook of Party List APEC for his privileged speech. So move, Mr. Speaker.
The Honorable Representative from APEC Party List is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, distinguished colleagues from the plenary, and to those joining us virtually via Zoom, to the Filipino people, good afternoon. I speak before you today on a matter of personal and collective privilege. Mr. Speaker, nais ko pong gamitin ang pribilehiyong ito upang pagtuunang pansin ang Department Circular Number DC 2019001 of the Department of Energy prescribing the Omnibus guidelines on enhancing off-grid power development and operation. We in the power block, together with party list Pilrica, Rico Buda, and ako padayon Pilipino, representing the 121 strong electric cooperatives and 14 million member consumer owners, have strong contentions with this particular Department of Energy circular. Mr. Speaker, this circular dated January 25, 2019 violates the provisions of Section 70 of Republic Act 9136, otherwise known as the Electric Power Industry Reform Act of 2001 and its corresponding implementing rules and regulations. Section 70, Mr. Speaker, of said law mandates that the National Power Corporation through the Small Power Utilities Group or NPC SPAG will perform the missionary electrification function with the responsibility of providing power generation and its associated power delivery systems in areas not connected to the transmission system, and with funding from the revenues from sales in missionary rates and universal charge for Missionary Electrification Fund or UCMA. On the other hand, Mr. Speaker, the DOE circular mandates for the cessation of UCMA subsidy in the NPC SPAG areas. Moreover, Mr. Speaker, said circular clearly states that the phasing out of said subsidy in the off-grid areas will be done gradually once the area is interconnected into the grid and becomes commercially viable. However, Mr. Speaker, none of these off-grid areas are connected to the grid, and yet the Department of Energy is already imposing the removal of UCMA subsidy in these areas. Mr. Speaker, it is a well-known fact that the generation cost of electricity in small island grids or missionary areas is very expensive due to the economies of scale and the limited available power generation technologies that can provide continuous, dependable, and efficient solutions in providing electricity to the isolated grids like diesel power plants. Thus, the need for subsidy while they are still in the off-grid. Mr. Speaker, we strongly oppose phasing out the UCMA subsidy in off-grid areas, as this would result in a huge increase in the electricity rates and will unfairly burden the households consumers in these areas. Mr. Speaker, if this happens, the member consumer owners would be paying the true cost of generation rate at an average rate of about 21 pesos and 66 centavos per kilowatt hour compared to the present setup where the electricity end users are only charged with the subsidized approved generation rate of 5 pesos and 64 centavos per kilowatt hour because of the UCME subsidy under the IPIRA law. Mr. Speaker, IPIRA was enacted to ensure the quality, reliability, security, and affordability of the supply of electric power throughout the country, including the off-grid areas. Because the people living there, Mr. Speaker, are also like us Filipinos. They are also Filipinos. I would like to reiterate, Mr. Speaker. However, this circular is contrary to the ideals and the intent of that particular provision of Republic Act 9136. If the UCME is phased out, the electric consumers would deeply suffer from spikes in electricity charges. With the pandemic and recent typhoons we have encountered, Mr. Speaker, most of our consumers in those areas who are still recovering from these adversities we face this year. We owe it to the people who serve to uphold guidelines and legislations that protects their rights and welfare. That is the intent, Mr. Speaker, of the framers of IPIRA in putting up Section 70 because they are aware that it would result in unequal distribution of government subsidy. Mr. Speaker, this particular circular of the Department of Energy is indeed preposterous as it is untimely and imprudent. We therefore urge the Department of Energy to reassess the wisdom of this particular circular. Mr. Speaker, as vanguards of the rural electrification sector and as pursuers of sustainable rural development, we stand with the electricity consumers in the off-grid, small islands on missionary areas. Electricity at this point in time is a right of every Filipino. It is no longer a privilege, no matter where they are living in our archipelago. With that said, Mr. Speaker, this representation together with Pilrica Representative Presley De Jesus, ako padayon Filipino Representative Adrian Ibcas, and Recoboda Party List Representative Godofredo Goya would like to call on the honorable members of this chamber to be gatekeepers of the most pressing needs of the energy sector, particularly those who are living in the island grid, because a substantial number of the members of House of Representatives are residing in those areas, and the people we are mentioning that will suffer the removal of the subsidy, Mr. Speaker, are their constituents of most of the members of the 18th Congress who are representing the provinces in the isolated grid. We must protect our constituents from the projected and unnecessary electricity rate spike resulting from this imprudent DOE circular. In this note, I wish to end my privileged speech, Mr. Speaker, with confidence that we are in solidarity in our promise of public service when we run public office. Thank you very much and God bless everyone. Manatili po sana tayong ligtas lahat, Mr. Speaker. Magandang hapon po sa ating lahat.
Mr. Speaker, I move that the privileged speech of the Honorable Dagoc be referred to the Committee on Rules for appropriate action. So move, Mr. Speaker.
No objection. Privileged speech, the Honorable Representative from APEC is referred to the Committee on Rules. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that the Honorable Ino D. of the 6th District of Isabela be recognized to avail of the privilege hour. So move, Mr. Speaker.
The Honorable D. of the 6th District of Isabela is recognized.
Maraming salamat po, Mr. Speaker. At Mr. Speaker, sa lahat ng ating mga kasama ngayong hapon na ito, bumabati po ako ng isang magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat. This representation rises this afternoon on a matter of personal privilege to raise a concern that has been brought to my attention by the local chief executives of the province of Isabela concerning the small town lottery or STL operations of the Philippine Charity Sweepstakes Office. According to the 2020 STL implementing rules and regulations, the rationale behind the STL is threefold. First is to raise and provide funds for health programs, medical assistance and services, and charities of national character. Second is to support the national government's drive to eradicate illegal numbers games or operations. And third is to generate employment opportunities. The objectives of the STL on their face are laudable. What bears stressing, Mr. Speaker, is that these objectives must and should be met consistent with our laws. Laws and rules that are enforced by various instrumentalities of government. These include law enforcement authorities and, of course, our LGUs who are at the front lines of our bureaucracy. Many of us here in this House are intimately familiar with the workings of our LGUs. Among our members here are former councilors, mayors, governors, and also among our ranks are those who have worked in LGUs in other capacities, such as our very own Speaker, Lord Alan Velasco, who served as Provincial Administrator of Marinduque. Kasama din po ako dito bilang dating barangay captain at dating presidente ng Liga ng mga Barangay. As such, many of us know firsthand the responsibilities of our LGUs are entrusted with. Responsibilities that have grown as more and more national government functions have been devolved to our LGUs. These include health services, agricultural programs, public services, among many others. However, as the COVID-19 pandemic has shown us, Mr. Speaker, LGUs are critical when it comes to one particularly important aspect or aspects of our governance: peace, order, and safety. Klaro naman po kasi sa ating mga leaders sa LGUs na sa kamay nila ang kapakanan ng kanilang mga constituents. It is very clear to our LGU executives, Mr. Speaker, that they are primarily responsible for the welfare of their constituents. It is also very clear to our LGUs that when the national government lays down policies regarding law and order, they are expected to enforce these policies. We all witness this dynamic as LGUs work with the national government to implement community quarantines aimed at preventing the spread of COVID-19. The bottom line for these LGUs, Mr. Speaker, the main concern of our LGUs is the welfare of their constituents. Given all this representation is concerned that issues are being taken with regard to efforts being made by LGU executives in our province to ensure that STL operations in Isabela are conducted consistent with existing laws and regulations. Laws and regulations intended to ensure the safety of our constituents. One of these basic regulations, Mr. Speaker, is securing the necessary business permits or permits to operate. In the case of STL operations in Kawayan City officials discovered that the PCSO authorized agency corporation that the PCSO partnered with to conduct STL in the area, specifically Sahara Games and Amusement Philippines Corporation, did not possess the permits required to do business in Kawayan City. These permits, Mr. Speaker, are a basic requirement. for all those who conduct business within a particular area. And there are means by which LGUs can ensure that business operations satisfy and comply with the laws and regulations that we in Congress or in their Sanggunian pass. Aside from the absence of required permits, Kawayan City officials also discovered that Sahara personnel from outside Isabela had not been respecting and complying with COVID protocols in place to keep Isabelinos safe from the dreaded disease. Consistent with IATF guidelines, Isabela LGUs have been strictly enforcing quarantines for overseas Filipino workers and locally stranded individuals who enter the province. Quarantine restrictions that Sahara personnel have disregarded, putting at risk my province mates, a worrisome concern given the growing number of COVID-19 cases. Ito pong pinaghihirapan ng ilang buwan ng ating mga LGU officials ay sa isang sandali lamang ay pwedeng mawala dahil sa risk na napuput po sila dahil po sa ginagawa nitong mga operators na ito. In light of these violations, the Kawayan City government had no choice but to fulfill its duties and shut down STL operations in the city. What this representation finds troublesome, Mr. Speaker, is that these LGU officials are being taken to task for doing their jobs, with groundless allegations being made against the Kawayan City Mayor and even officials of the provincial government for enforcing the law. It has been argued, Mr. Speaker, that STL operators in the provinces are not required to secure business permits from LGUs, as these operators or authorized agents are considered extension of the PCSO. This is a presumption, Mr. Speaker, that lies on a slippery slope. A fact that the STL operator in our province possibly recognizes as the company applied for the permits the AAC now posits it is not required to secure. Furthermore, Sahara is a separate juridical entry which is separate and distinct from PCSO and therefore cannot be considered as a government agency or instrumentality. The 2016 IRR for STL operation allows now authorized agent corporation to operate locally. As defined in the IRR itself, the AAC refers to a an AAC refers to a corporation or cooperation duly registered with the Securities and Exchange Commission or with the Cooperative Development Authority. The AAC, therefore, is a juridical person, a corporation, or a cooperative with a personality distinct and separate from the PCSO. It is a private entity to which must secure a business permit from the municipalities or cities to where they intend to operate their lotteries. The grant of an agency agreement by the PCSO to the Sahara does not make the latter a government agency or an instrumentality, nor can they be considered as a mere extension, for the simple reason that their personality is distinct. Mr. Speaker, not only is Sahara distinct from the PCSO, but their agency agreement with the PCSO to conduct STL operations is considered to be illegal. On the leading case of Kilos Bayan versus Gingona, where no less a Supreme Court ruled, and I quote, Section 1 of RA number 1169 as amended by BP bilang 42 prohibits the PCSO from holding and conducting lotteries in collaboration, association, or joint venture with any person, association, company, or entity, whether domestic and foreign. The language of the section is indisputably clear that with respect to its franchise or privilege to hold and conduct charity sweepstake races, lotteries, and other similar activities, the PCSO cannot exercise it in collaboration, association, or joint venture with any other party. This is the unequivocal meaning and import of the phrase except for the activities mentioned in the preceding paragraph A, namely charity sweepstakes, races, lotteries, and other similar activities. Clearly then, the PCSO cannot share its franchise by way of collaboration, association, and joint venture with Sahara Games and Amusement Philippines Corporation, its accredited ACC operating in the province of Isabela. Mr. Speaker, this representation submits that the legal issues arising from this episode and related incidents in Isabela highlight the need to clarify the laws and regulations regarding the conduct of STL operations. We need to review these sooner rather than later, Mr. Speaker, if the supposed objectives of the STL are to be achieved. We need to review these sooner rather than later because as it stands, LGUs believe they do not stand to benefit from the STL because LGUs do not receive revenues from STL, and thus their own constituents cannot even benefit from the finances generated by the games they themselves play. We need to review these sooner rather than later because as a former LGU official, I empathize with the LGUs having difficulties reconciling their mandate to protect their constituents with assertions that they cannot regulate games being conducted in their respective jurisdictions. We need to review these sooner than later, Mr. Speaker, because even President Rodrigo Duterte has pointed out potential corruption issues in the STL, issues that prompted the President to order the suspension of its operations in July 2019. Mr. Speaker, colleagues and friends, this issue goes beyond the STL. It speaks to our LGUs' rights and responsibility to uphold the welfare of their constituents, a mandate that should not be compromised with revenue-generating programs and projects like the STL. This is the reason, Mr. Speaker, that we and my fellow lawmakers in Isabela will be filing a resolution calling for an inquiry investigation in aid of legislation into the PCSO's small town lottery and also their operations in the province of Isabela. Maraming salamat po, Mr. Speaker.
Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we refer the speech of the Honorable D to the Committee on Rules for its appropriate action. So move, Mr. Speaker.
Hearing no objection to the motion, the privileged speech of the Honorable D is referred to the Committee on Rules.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we terminate the privilege hour. So move, Mr. Speaker.
No objection. The motion is approved. Privilege hour is hereby terminated. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move to consider House Bill number 7700 as contained in the committee report number 508 and direct the Secretary General to read the title of the bill.
Without objection to the motion, the Secretary General is directed to read the title of House Bill 7700.
House Bill number 7700, an act reapportioning the first legislative district of the city of Caloocan into 2 legislative districts.
Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we recognize the chairperson of Committee on Local Government, Representative Chairman Noel Villanueva, to sponsor to begin sponsorship of the measure.
Mr. Speaker, may I be recognized?
The Honorable Noel Villanueva, Chairman of the Committee on Local Government, is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, the city of Caloocan is composed of 188 barangays, of which 70 are located in the first legislative district, while 118 barangays comprise the second legislative district of Caloocan City. Caloocan City ranks number 4 as one of the most populated cities in the country today. When the framers of the 1987 Constitution apportioned the city of Caloocan into 2 legislative districts, its total population then was only 467,816. 192,362 inhabited the first legislative district, while 275,454 residents live in the second legislative district. The population of the city has grown rapidly over the years. Based on the 215 census of population, Caloocan City has 1,583,978 inhabitants, of which 1,193,419 or 75.34% are residing in the first legislative district of the city, while 390,559 or 24.66% are living in the second legislative district. With the continuously growing population, House Bill number 7700 seeks to reapportion only the first legislative district of Caloocan City into two legislative districts, leaving the second legislative district untouched. Under this bill, the first legislative district will have a population of 893,222. The second legislative district will remain at 390,559, while the proposed third legislative district will have 300,197 inhabitants. In Section 5, Paragraph 3, Article 6 of the Constitution, it explicitly provides that each legislative district shall comprise, as far as practicable, contiguous, compact, and adjacent territory. Each city with a population of at least 250,000 or each province shall have at least one representative. In the proposed reapportionment of the first legislative district of the city of Caloocan into two legislative districts, the proposed bill complied with the requirements as prescribed by the Constitution. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker.
Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move to recognize the Honorable Edgar Erice of the 2nd District of Caloocan City for his interpellation. So move, Mr. Speaker.
The Honorable Edgar Erice is recognized for his interpellation.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. May the gentleman, Chairman of the Committee on Local Governments, yield to some clarificatory questions.
Willingly, Your Honor. Willingly, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. At present, there are only two legislative districts of Caloocan. Would you agree, Mr. Speaker, that the present apportionment of legislative district in Caloocan is grossly unproportional in terms of population and land area? Would you agree, Mr. Speaker?
Mr. Speaker, distinguished interpellator, I cannot very much agree with that proposition because in Rizal province alone, a district comprises 1 million population. So the first legislative district of Caloocan City is in the same situation as that in a district in Rizal province.
So, Mr. Speaker, would you also agree that at the moment, Caloocan City is underrepresented in Congress?
We may say that, considering that the number of population is too huge, and I can agree, I may agree that it is underrepresented.
So, that's why, Mr. Speaker, I really agree, same with you, that particularly the first congressional district of Caloocan should be reapportioned. My congressional district, the congressional district that I represent, has only a population of less than 400,000. And if we will look into the population of legislative districts in Metro Manila, that's, I would say, normal number of population. But in the first legislative district of Caloocan, there's almost 1.2 million population. Kaya po makatwiran lang na ito ay hatiin natin. And naniniwala po ba kayo, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Chairman of the Committee on Local Government, dapat po talaga meron pong proportional representation? Naniniwala po ba kayo dyan?
Theoretically speaking, I agree with the distinguished interpellator, Mr. Speaker.
Kung naniniwala po kayo sa proportional representation, dito po sa inyong panukala na paghahati ng First Congressional District, hinati niyo po ito sa dalawa. Yung isa po, yung present District 1, at yung pangalawa, yung proposed District 3. May I ask our, pwede po natin ipakita yung proposed. Next page, please. 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 Ayan. Ayan. This is the proposal. Ito po ang proposal. Ayon po dito sa inyong proposal, yung District 1 po ay magkakaroon ng 893,222 ang population. Magkakaroon po ng 34 square kilometers na land area at magkakaroon ng 59 na barangay. Samantalang ang proposed District 3 will have only 300,000 population, 12 square kilometers, 11 barangays. Sa tingin niyo po ba yung 893,222 na population is proportional with 300,197? Mr. Speaker?
Mr. Speaker, theoretically, based on the number of population of the city of Caloocan, we can reapportion the city into 5 legislative districts, 5 separate legislative districts. But the author proposed only to create a 3rd legislative district in the northeast portion of Caloocan. I would agree with this distinguished interpellator, but I cannot fathom or I cannot delve on the wisdom of the proposed bill authored by the representative of the 1st District of Caloocan City himself. That is why House Bill number 7700 pertains only to the creation of a 3rd legislative district, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, is it not the duty of the Committee on Local Governments to determine the wisdom of a proposed law? Hindi po ba yan ay inyong pangunahing responsibilidad na alamin kung ano yung wisdom, kung ano yung makatwiran, kung ano yung makatarungan sa paggawa natin ng mga batas? Itinanong niyo po ba, ano ba yung wisdom na ito?
Mr. Speaker, with due respect to the distinguished interpellator, this committee is after the legality of a proposed bill submitted to its committee for deliberation, for committee deliberation. As to wisdom, well, there may be some questions as to wisdom, but we are after the legality. I cannot delve on the wisdom why only one district was reapportioned out of the existing first legislative district of the city of Caloocan.
Meaning,
Mr.
Mr.
Speaker.
Chairman, you're saying that your only basis is legality. But how about propriety? Isn't it the primary responsibility of this august chamber to pass laws that are proper, not just legal?
We are guided by legal and constitutional basis, Mr. Speaker. And our basis is the Section 5, Paragraph 3 of Article 6 of the Constitution. And I firmly believe the committee, in deciding on House Bill number 770, complied with the statutory and legal requirements required
Hypothetically,
for the creation
Mr.
of a
Speaker,
legislative district.
hypothetically, Mr. Speaker, if the proponent of this bill propose a 1.1 million population for the first congressional district and 100,000 population in the third district, is it legal?
It is not. That is illegal. It does
Why?
not comply with the
Why?
statutory and constitutional requirements, Mr. Speaker.
Why?
Because it's clear in Section 5, Paragraph 3 of Article 6 of the Constitution, it must have at least 250,000 population to create a legislative district. So 100,000 is sufficient if it will comprise a representative for one province, for a newly created province. Because each province shall have one representative in the House of Representatives. But for a legislative district, the requirement is 250,000, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, in Valenzuela, yung pong Valenzuela hinati. Hinati po yung Valenzuela. Ang pagkakahati po ng Valenzuela ay, Mr. Speaker, ang Valenzuela po, hinati, walang 250,000 yung isang district. Ibig po niyong sabihin, that is illegal?
Yan po ay wala po akong
Sir Speaker, Valenzuela.
Kakahati ng
In Valenzuela, there's the population is 620.
that is not per se illegal because when the two legislative districts of Caloocan were created, they did not comply with the 250,000 population. The population of Caloocan City was only 467,816 when the 1987 Philippine Constitution was passed and approved. One district has only 192,362 population.
Have you
And the
not,
other district is only 275,454. So theoretically, it is not illegal per se if it does not comply with the population requirement, as can be gleaned from what
maybe
is experienced by Caloocan
maybe the
City
chairman
in its apportionment in the
can you
1987
please cite the
Constitution.
particular provision in the Constitution or any other laws that state what you've stated?
I've been mentioning it many times, Mr. Speaker. It's Section 5, Paragraph 3, Article 6 of the Constitution.
Can you state that, please?
It provides that each legislative district shall comprise, as far as practicable, contiguous, compact, and adjacent territory. Each city with a population of at least 250,000 or each province shall have at least one representative. That is what the provision of the Constitution states on legislative districts, Mr. Speaker. distinguished interpellator.
So, if one city like Caloocan, we have 1.6, almost 1.7 population. The first congressional district is 1.1 million. So, this is legal. Of course,
Correct.
this is legal.
It's
So,
patently correct.
if the
That is
proponent
patently
proposes a 1 million population,
Because-
another 200,000, it's legal.
No, the third legislative district that is proposed to be created will have a population of 300,197. So what this distinguished interpellator is assuming is speculative at best. We are not talking of 200 population here. We are talking of a 300,197 population for the proposed third legislative district of Caloocan City.
You said that as much as practicable, it must be contiguous. But,
Correct.
but your proposal, instead of creating a contiguous area, pinayagan nyo pa rin po na magkahiwalay. Pwede nyo na po sanang itama itong pagkakamali na ito na yung First Legislative District of Caloocan ay dapat compact. Pero pinayagan nyo rin na hindi compact. Bakit po? Ano kayang dahilan?
Ako rin po ay nagtataka kung bakit ang Caloocan ay nahahati sa dalawang bahagi. Ano po? Caloocan North at Caloocan South. Kaya ako po ay nag-research. Napagalaman ko po na ang una pala, ang Laloma ay bahagi pala ng Caloocan City nung panahon ng Commonwealth. At pagkatapos po, ang Novaliches, Pugadlawin ay bahagi din po pala ng Caloocan yan. Kaya kung susumahin, isang napakalaking teritoryo ng Caloocan City kung kasama pati ang Laloma at ang Novaliches area. So sa pagkakahiwalay po ng Novaliches area, ay nahati po ngayon. Hindi po naging contiguous ang Caloocan City. At yun po ay hindi po natin pagkakamali yun. Pagkakamali po ng mga sinaunang batas na naipasa. Ano kasi yung mga specific laws na naipasa na yon, kung bakit nangyari po ang nangyari niyan sa Caloocan City na nahati, hindi po naging adjoining ang land area ng Caloocan City sa ngayon.
Kaya nga po, pwede naman pong itama sa ngayon, Mr. Speaker. Pwede natin i-create na isang district yung magkakasama. At yung Northern Caloocan po ay isang district. Pwede rin po yun. Bakit po hindi nyo ginawa?
Theoretically, tama po kayo dyan. Theoretically, tama po kayo dyan, Mr. Speaker.
Ano pong dahilan?
Pero hindi po yun. But that was not the intent of the law, the proposed bill. The intent of the proposed bill on House Bill number 7700 creates a third legislative district on the northeast portion of North Caloocan. Hindi po binabanggit na yung bahagi ng Caloocan City na kadugtong ng second legislative district ay gagawing bagong legislative district. Hindi po yun ang intent ng batas na ipinapasa natin. Ang intent po ng panukalang batas ay magtayo ng bagong legislative district sa northeast portion po ng Caloocan.
So,
Wala po kasi sa batas na pati yun ay kasama sa reapportionment. Kaya hindi po namin pwedeng i-deliberate sa committee yun, Mr. Speaker.
Ano po kaya ang dahilan? Bakit yung pong mali na proportion na approach, yung pong mali na pagkakahati-hati ng Caloocan, hindi po i-correct dito sa panukalang batas na ito?
Alam niyo po, katulad ng nabanggit ko sa inyo, maaring magiging paulit-ulit ang sagot ko sa inyo diyan. The intent of House Bill 7700 is to create a third legislative district in the northeast portion of Caloocan North. Wala pong binabanggit na pwede palang magtayo pa, maglagay pa ng isang separate legislative district na katabi ng second legislative district of Caloocan. Hindi po yun ang purpose ng proposed bill. Ulitin ko na lang po.
Okay po, sige po. Sige po.
Ulit.
Kung ganun po, for example, yung sinasabi niyo po na itong apportionment na ito na 900,000 ng population ng isa, 300,000, ay makatwiran po para sa inyo.
Alam niyo po, I cannot answer you directly if it is righteous or what. But that is the intent of the proposed bill. The intent of the proposed bill is to create a new district on the northeast portion of Caloocan North.
There should be
Maybe in some other time, but not now, in some other time, when the population of Caloocan or a new representative of Caloocan will assume office and he considers it appropriate to create additional districts for the city of Caloocan, maybe that is the time when we can answer these questions. But your questions are very clear, but I cannot answer them because that is not the intent of House Bill number 7700.
Ang ibig niyo pong sabihin,
I am only answering you within the intent of the proposed law.
ang ibig niyo pong sabihin, Mr. Chairman, galang-galang na chairman ng Committee on Local Government, na ang paggawa natin ng apportionment of legislative district ay pwedeng kapritsyo lamang ng isang mambabatas? Pwedeng walang logic, walang dahilan? Halimbawa, hahatiin mo yung isang distrito, yung kahati 900,000, yung kalahati 300,000, okay lang yon. Yung kalahati 34 square kilometers, yung kalahati 12 kilometers, yung kalahati 59 barangays, yung isa 11 barangays, kahit walang logic, kahit hindi proportional, basta yan ang gusto ng mambabatas na nagpanukala, walang magagawa ang inyong komite para itama ito?
Mr. Speaker, siguro po ang masasagot ko sa kagalang-galang na kinatawan ng pangalawang distrito ng Caloocan City sa bagay na yan ay katulad nga ng nasabi ko sa inyo, bigyan na lang ako ng halimbawa po sa inyo, ang Rizal Province. Sa matagal na panahon po, ang Rizal Province ay hinati lang sa dalawang distrito. So, nung nakaraang pagpupulong po ng komitiba, yung isang distrito hinati, ginawang 4 na distrito. Bakit naman po yung isang distrito sa Rizal hindi po nagpanukala na hatiin yung kanyang napakalaking distrito na mahigit 1 milyong populasyon? Bakit hindi pa isinabay? Parang ganun din lang po ang sagot ko sa inyo eh. For as long as we do not violate laws, for as long as we are within the ambit of the Constitution, there is nothing to worry about. Maging 900,000 man ang populasyon ng isang distrito at yung isa'y 300 lang, wala po tayong ikakabahala diyan. Because we do not violate or we did not violate any statutory or constitutional requirement. In fact, in Aquino versus Comelec, nangyari na po yan eh. Marami na pong jurisprudence sinagot ang mga bagay na yan. Marami na pong jurisprudence.
Mr. Speaker, I understand what you're saying. Ang sinasabi ko lang po,
umabot na po sa kataas-taasang hukuman ang mga ganyang mga issue. Kung bakit yung isang matitirang distrito, the mother of a legislative district will still have a population of 893,000, while a newly created will only have 300,000. When in fact, we can even divide the remaining first legislative district into 3 separate districts. Pero Mr. Speaker, that is not the intent of House Bill 7700. The intent is only to create a new legislative district in the northeast portion of Caloocan. If I may surmise, like what our distinguished interpolator is doing now, baka naman po dahil kadulu-duluhan na po yung northeast Caloocan, napapag-iwanan po sa progreso. Kaya kailangan magkaroon sila ng representasyon para nang sa gayon ay mapabilis. Kasi po kung titignan sa mapa, the proposed third legislative district is situated almost near the Sierra Madre Mountains. Di po ba? Nasa eastern
Hindi
portion
po.
ng...
Mali po
ng
kayo ng
Luzon.
speculation kasi hindi nyo po alam. Ako po, taga Caloocan, naging vice mayor po ako. 4 terms na akong pang-apat ko ng pagiging kinatawan dito. Naging konsehal po ako, naging vice mayor po ako. Kaya alam ko po na hindi po yun ang dahilan. Dahil actually po, merong yung main proponent, meron pong earlier na proposal na sinabit din po sa Committee on Local Government. Hindi po ganyan yung paghahati.
Siguro po in due time, but not now, baka dadating yung araw, magiging 5 na ang distrito ang Caloocan City. Pero sa ngayon po, ulitin ko lang ang aking sagot, House Bill number 7700 pertains only to the creation of a new legislative district in the northeast portion of Caloocan North. At hindi po ako makakasagot sa inyo kung bakit hindi gawing 4, hindi gawing 5, dahil ang hinihingi po ng batas,
Naunawaan ko po na hindi nyo
ay
po...
magkaroon pa ng panibagong isa lamang. Yun lamang po ang malinaw at na may sasagot ko sa mga tanong, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, naunawaan ko po na hindi nyo po alam yung dynamics ng City of Caloocan. Hindi naman po kayo taga-roon sa City of Caloocan, kaya po hindi nyo masasagot kung ano man yung itatanong ko tungkol dito. Sa mga kalakaran sa lungsod ng Caloocan. Anyway, ang ibig nyo pong sabihin, tayo ay gumagawa ng mga batas. Basta ito'y makakasunod lang sa Constitution. Pero, for example, meron po mga certain parameters like proportional representation. Like, for example, preservation of existing communities. Yung kanila pong historical affinity. Dito po, sa proposal na ito, pinaghahati-hati nyo po yung dating magkakasama na mga barangay. For example, yung Bagong Silang, the biggest barangay of Caloocan City, is previously a part of Barangay Tala, Barrio Tala. Pareho po yan, Bagong Silang and Tala. Pero dito sa inyong proposal, pinaghiwalay nyo po, nilagay nyo po sa 3rd District, yung main barangay of Tala at yung Bagong Silang, which is part of the Tala Estate, ay inilagay nyo po sa 1st District. Pagkatapos po, yung Camarin. Camarin is previously one barangay, Barangay 174, 175, 177, 178. So, pinaghihiwalay nyo po yung mga community, inilagay nyo po yung Barangay 178 sa 3rd District at yung 174, 175 at 177 ay inilagay nyo po sa 1st District. So pinaghihiwalay-hiwalay nyo po yung dati ng magkakasamang communities dito sa ginagawa nyo.
Mr. Speaker, sa ngayon po may hawak akong dokumento na nanggaling sa tanggapan ng Sangguniang Panlungsod, Resolution number 3472, a resolution supporting House Bill 5961 entitled The NAC Reapportioning the First Legislative District of Caloocan City, authored by the Representative Dale Gonzalo Along Malapitan. Suportado po ng Sangguniang Panlungsod ang House Bill number 7700. Mas lalong suportado po ng kinatawan ng unang distrito, ang bill na to, dahil sismo ang author po nito. Being the representative of the first legislative district, I think he possessed more knowledge than anybody else on the need of his district. Walang ibang makakapagsalita po para sa first legislative district kung hindi yung mismong representative na hinihalal ng mamamayan ng distritong yun. At yun ay walang iba kundi si Congressman Malapitan. Ako po hindi ako makakapagsalita para sa mga mamamayan ng Caloocan. I am here as chairman of the local government committee making sure that legal and constitutional basis were complied with in House Bill number 7700.
Kaya nga po,
Kaya
Mr.
kung yun po
Speaker,
ang tanong nyo sa akin, kagustuhan po ng mamamayan ng unang distrito ng Caloocan yan sa katauhan ng kanilang kinatawan na si Congressman Along Malapitan. At sinusikundahan pa ng isang endorso na nanggaling sa Sangguniang Panlungsod ng siyudad, ng lungsod po ng Caloocan, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, kaya nga po, sana nga po, ang nagde-depend dito ay yung main proponent. Kasi marami po kayong hindi alam sa lungsod ng Caloocan. Sabi nyo kanina, sinusuportahan ng Sangguniang Panlunsod ng Caloocan ang naturang proposal ni Congressman Along Malapitan. Pwede ko po bang malaman sa inyo kung kailan inaprubahan ng Sangguniang Panlunsod yung nasabi niyong panukala?
Dito po sa hawak kong dokumento ay, sandali po, ano po, kailan samba? Alam niyo po, gayon pa man, ano po?
Mr. Speaker, it's very relevant. Sinasabi niyo po na inaprubahan ng konseho, so tinatanong ko po sa inyo, kailan inaprubahan?
Inyo pong ipagpatawad, ito palang nabasa ko pong resolusyon ay kasalukuyan pang pinag-aaralan sa Sangguniang Panlungsod. It is a proposed resolution number 11-473. So, mea culpa, my apologies to the distinguished interpellator. Ano
Kailan
po?
nyo, Mr.
Pero gayon
Speaker,
pa man po,
Mr. Speaker, kailan nyo po inaprubahan sa Committee on Local Government?
akin pa rin pong iginigiit na sa kadahilan ng kagustuhan ng mamamayan ng unang distrito ng Caloocan, ang nabanggit na
Mr. Speaker, my question is, kailan nyo po inaprubahan
Of
ang
course,
nasabing
when the representative of a particular district speaks before the halls of Congress or pass laws, propose laws that will affect his district, it is assumed that there was consultation among his people.
Mr.
Yun po ang konsultasyon dyan. At ang kagandahan naman po dito kasi, ay hindi naman po natinag ang unang pangalawang distrito ng Caloocan City. Ni isang barangay po ay walang tinanggal sa second legislative district na kung saan kayo po ang kinatawan. Ang pinag-uusapan lamang po dito ay gawing dalawa ang first legislative district na kung saan ang kinatawan ay si Congressman Along Malapitan. And in his person, in his personality as the district representative, he is speaking entirely for the people of the first legislative district of Caloocan, Mr. Speaker.
Meaning, Mr. Speaker, the authority of a legislator in terms of laws affecting his district is absolute.
It is plenary, Mr. Speaker.
That's why,
It is not absolute. It is plenary. It depends upon...
Mr. Speaker, if you're creating a district, it will not only affect Caloocan City, it will affect the whole system of proportional representation in the whole country. And it will affect even the allocations of appropriations. So it's not absolute, Mr. Speaker. Dapat
Remember,
kung
Mr.
meron tayong
Speaker,
proposal, dapat
the power-
makatarungan, dapat
Now-
makatwiran. At hindi po, at yan pong, yung data na sinasabi ko sa inyo, yan po ay, the figure will speak for itself. You are creating a district, a super district of 900,000 population, the biggest district in Metro Manila.
Mr. Speaker, we are not creating a super district. In fact, pinaliliit nga natin ang unang legislative district ng Caloocan City. Sa kanyang kasalukuyang 1.1 million 993,419 population. Binabawasan po nga natin yan at tinatayo natin ang ikatlong distrito sa Caloocan, kaya magiging less than 900,000 na lang po populasyon ng first district ng Caloocan City.
Kaya nga po, kung tinatama natin yung mali,
gusto ko nga
tinatama
po
natin yung mali
ito
sa
po
pamagitan ng pagpapasa ng isang batas na mali.
Approving or endorsing the reapportionment of the first legislative district was approved August 25, 2020. Ito po ang information na nanggaling sa COMSEC ng local government. The Sangguniang Panlusod Resolution endorsing the reapportionment of the first legislative district of Caloocan City was approved by the City Council on August 25, 2020. For the information of our distinguished interpellator, Mr. Speaker.
Again, Mr. Speaker, mali po yung sinasabi nyo. Naaprubahan nyo yan August, yung sa committee.
August 25.
Tama po yan. Pero yung pong City Council, naaprubahan lang yan about a month ago. About a month ago. I'm supposed to show a video.
Session suspended.
Saan yung binigay mo sa akin?
Mr. Speaker.
Let us resume session.
Mr. Speaker, I move to suspend the consideration of House Bill number 7700. So move, Mr. Speaker.
Any objection? Chair hears none. Motion is carried. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we consider House Bill number 2378 as contained in the committee report number 626 and request the Secretary General be instructed to read the title of the bill. 2378.
Yeah, Secretary General is directed to read the title of the bill.
House Bill
Chairman.
2378, an act declaring the city of San Jose del Monte in the province of
Ready,
Bulacan
Chairman.
as human resource capital.
Majority Leader.
Ikaw na? Mr. Speaker, I move to recognize the chairperson of the committee, Chairperson Eric Pineda of Labor and Employment.
Congressman Pineda is recognized. through Zoom.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, with reference to House Bill number 2378 under Committee Report number 626 entitled An Act Declaring the City of San Jose del Monte in the Province of Bulacan as a Human Resource Capital, authored by Representative Florida Robes. May I move that the explanatory note of the said bill be accepted as my sponsorship speech? So move, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Is there any objection? Hearing done, the motion is carried. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we open the period of sponsorship and debate.
Okay. Any objections? Chair hears none, so the motion is carried.
Mr. Speaker, there being no interpellators, I move to terminate the period of sponsorship and debate.
Is there any objection? Hearing none, the period of sponsorship and debate is hereby terminated.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we open the period of amendments.
Is there any objection? Chair hears none. Period of amendments is now open.
Mr. Speaker, there being no other committee amendments, I move that we now proceed to consider the individual amendments.
Consider. Is there any objection? Chair hears none. So period of individual amendments is now open.
Mr. Speaker, there being no member who wishes to introduce individual amendments, I move that we close the period of individual amendments.
Is there any objection? Chair hears none. Period of individual amendments is now closed.
Mr. Speaker, there being no other individual amendments, I move that we close the period of amendments.
Is there any objection? Period of amendments is now terminated.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we vote on second reading House Bill number 2378. So move, Mr. Speaker.
Those in favor of 2378 say aye.
Aye.
Those who are not in favor say nay. The ayes have it. House Bill 2378 is now approved on second reading.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we consider House Bill number 8083 as contained in Committee Report number 615. So move, Mr. Speaker. And request the Secretary General to read the title of the bill.
Secretary General, please read the title of the House Bill.
House Bill number 8083, an act including a national artist as a member of the National Commission for Culture and the Arts, amending for the purpose Republic Act number 7356, otherwise known as the law creating the National Commission for Culture and the Arts.
Okay, brother. Mr. Speaker, I move that we recognize Honorable Evi Escudero of the 1st District of Sorsogon to sponsor the said bill.
Representative Escudero is now recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm happy to sponsor House Bill 8083 under the Committee Report 615, an act including a national artist as a member of the National Commission of the Culture and Arts, amending for the purpose Republic Act 75756. So may my explanatory note be the sponsorship for this particular bill, Mr. Speaker.
Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move to open the period of sponsorship and debate.
Is there any objection? Period of sponsorship and debate is now open.
Mr. Speaker, Seeing there no one to wish to interpellate, I move that we terminate the period of sponsorship and debate.
Is there any objection? Chair hears none. Period of sponsorship and debate is now terminated.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we open the period of amendments.
Is there any objection? Chair hears none. Period of amendments is now open.
Mr. Speaker, there being no committee amendments, I move that we now proceed to consider the individual amendments.
Is there any objection? Chair hears none. We now proceed to we now open the period of individual amendments.
Mr. Speaker, there being no member who wishes to introduce individual amendments, I move that we close the period of individual amendments.
Is there any objection? Chair hears none. We now close the period of individual amendments.
Mr. Speaker, there being no other individual amendments, I move that we close the period of amendments.
Is there any objection? Period of amendments is now closed.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we vote on second reading House Bill number 8083. So move, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I move that we vote on second reading House Bill number 8083. So move, Mr. Speaker.
There's a motion to approve House Bill 8083 on second reading. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those who are against say nay. The ayes have it. House Bill 8083 is now approved on second reading.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we consider House Bill number 7460 as contained in the committee report number 643 and request the Secretary General to read the title of the bill. Mr. Speaker, I move to suspend for a few minutes.
Session suspended. Yeah.
Mr. Speaker.
What's the pleasure of the body?
Mr. Speaker, I request the Secretary General to read the title of the bill.
House Bill number 7460, an act to declare the city of Davao as the chocolate and cacao production capital of the Philippines and for other purposes.
Mr. Speaker, I move to open the period of sponsorship and debate.
Any objection? There being none,
I'm sorry, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I move to recognize Honorable Mark Enverga to sponsor the bill.
Chair recognizes the gentleman to sponsor the bill.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, distinguished Majority Leader. Mr. Speaker, I have the honor and privilege to sponsor Committee Report number 643 in reference to House Bill number 7460, entitled An Act to Declare the City of Davao as the Chocolate and Cacao Production Capital of the Philippines, and for other purposes, which seeks to recognize the achievements of Davao City as the country's top producer of high-quality cacao beans and its vital contribution in making the Philippines a world-renowned producer of high-quality chocolate products. The Davao region is the top cacao-producing region in the country, and Davao City continues to be the top producer for the entire region. It has the biggest land area dedicated to cacao plantation, contributing 34% of the total volume of cacao production in the country, which prompted the Department of Agriculture to officially name Davao City as the cacao capital of the Philippines. Mr. Speaker, Your Honors, the bill, if passed into law, will institutionalize and strengthen the current programs of the Department of Agriculture and will consequently reach the marketable potentials of cacao, not just domestically but globally as well. I'm humbly asking for your support. Let us give Davao the recognition it truly deserves. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
The Majority Floor Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move to open the period of sponsorship and debate.
Any objection? Floor is open.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we terminate the period of sponsorship and debate and open the period of amendments.
Any objection? There being none,
Mr. Speaker, there being no other committee amendments, I move that we now proceed to consider the individual amendments.
any objection? There being none,
Mr. Speaker, there being no member who wishes to introduce individual amendments, I move that we close the period of individual amendments.
any objection? There being none,
Mr. Speaker, there being no other individual amendments, I move that we close the period of amendments.
any objection? There being none,
Mr. Speaker, I move that we vote on second reading House Bill number 7460. So move, Mr. Speaker.
there's a motion to approve the measure on second reading. Those who are in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those who are against, say nay. The motion is carried.
Yes.
An overwhelming unanimous aye.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we consider House Bill number 8164 under the committee report number 637 and request the Secretary General to read the title of the bill.
Secretary General, please read the title of the bill.
House Bill number 8164, an act providing for the revised charter of the Philippine Veterans Bank, repealing for the purpose Republic Act number 3518 as amended.
Mr. Speaker, I move that the chairperson of Committee on Banks and Financial Intermediaries, Representative Kua, be recognized to begin the sponsorship.
Thank you, Mr.
We
Speaker,
recognize
for
Representative Kua.
recognizing this humble representation to sponsor the amended charter or the new charter of the Philippine Veterans Bank. In the interest of time, Mr. Speaker, because this is the second day before we adjourn, I just would like to put on record that my explanatory note to this milestone bill be put on record as my sponsorship speech. Suffice it to say, Mr. Speaker, that the need for this bill is urgent because the Philippine Veterans Bank, which is a bank organized to benefit our veterans, is long overdue. There is a need to make the Philippine Veterans Bank a stronger bank that will service the interest of our Filipino veterans. So, Mr. Speaker, your committee has crafted an amended charter which we believe will expand the capital base of this bank, make it a viable bank, a commercial bank for that matter, to serve the needs of veterans and be an active player in the financial market. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this great opportunity for allowing me to sponsor this important measure.
Mr. Speaker, I move to open the period of sponsorship and debate.
Objection? Floor is open.
Mr. Speaker, I move to terminate the period of sponsorship and debate and move that we open the periods of amendments.
There being no one wanting to interpellate, the motion is for the termination of the interpellation period and opening the period of amendment.
Mr. Speaker, there being no other committee amendments, I move that we now proceed to consider the individual amendments.
There's a motion. Proceed to individual amendments. Any objection? There being none.
Mr. Speaker, there being no member who wishes to introduce individual amendments, I move that we close the period of individual amendments.
Any objection? There being none, we are now in the individual amendment.
Mr. Speaker, there being no other individual amendments, I move that we close the period of amendments.
Any objection? There being none.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we vote on second reading House Bill number 8164. So move, Mr. Speaker.
There's a motion to approve House Bill 8164 on second reading. All those who are in favor of the approval, say aye.
Aye.
We hear that again? Those who are in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those who are against, say nay. There being none, motion is carried. This bill is now approved on second reading.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we consider House Bill number 7952 as contained in Committee Report number 573 and request the Secretary General to read the title of the bill. So move, Mr. Speaker. Last.
Mr. Majority Leader. Secretariat.
House Bill number 7952, an act establishing a multi-specialty hospital in the city of Lucena, province of Quezon, to be known as the Southern Luzon Multi-Specialty Medical Center and appropriating funds therefore.
Mr. Speaker, I move to recognize the Honorable Acop of 2nd District of Antipolo to sponsor the said bill.
Honorable Akop is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In behalf of our chairperson, Helen Tan, I am here to sponsor in this August body House Bill number 7952, an act establishing a multi-specialty hospital in the city of Tayabas, province of Quezon, to be known as the Southern Luzon Multi-Specialty Medical Center and appropriating funds thereof.
The Majority Floor Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move to open the period of sponsorship and debate.
Any objection? There being none,
Mr. Speaker, I move to to terminate the period of sponsorship and debate and open the period of amendments.
any objection? There being none.
Mr. Speaker, there being no other committee amendments, I move that we proceed to consider the individual amendments.
Any objection? There being none,
Mr. Speaker, I move to recognize Honorable Enverga to introduce amendments.
The chair recognizes Congressman Enverga to propose his individual amendments.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, may I be allowed to introduce certain amendments to House Bill number 7952, particularly in its title by deleting Lucena and in its stead put Tayabas, to be read as follows: an act establishing a multi-specialty hospital in the city of Tayabas, province of Quezon, to be known as the Southern Luzon Multi-Specialty Medical Center, and appropriating funds therefore. Also, Mr. Speaker, in line 2 of the bill, replace the word Lucena with Tayabas. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
What does the sponsor say about the proposal?
Mr. Speaker, in behalf of the Committee on Health, we accept the amendments.
Any objection? There being none.
Mr. Speaker, I move to approve the proposed individual amendments. So move, Mr. Speaker.
Any objection? There being none.
Mr. Speaker, there being no member who wishes to introduce individual amendments, I move that we close the period of individual amendments.
Any objection? There being none.
Mr. Speaker, there being no other individual amendments, I move that we close the period of amendments.
Any objection? There being none.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we vote on second reading House Bill number 7952. So move, Mr. Speaker.
There's a motion to approve on second reading House Bill 7952. Those who are in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
I didn't hear the sponsor. Anyway, those who are against, say nay. The ayes have it. House Bill number 7952 is hereby approved on second reading, as amended. Mr. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, on behalf of the majority, I move to nominate and elect as members of the Committee on Good Government and Public Accountability as members Representative Hill Acosta Jr., Representative Seriaco Gato Jr., Representative Wilton Ho, Representative Alan Aldo Duhali, Representative Yasser Balindong, Representative Rosano Rufino Biason, Representative Angelo Barba, and Representative Alfredo Garbin Jr. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
Any objection? There being none.
Mr. Speaker, on behalf of the majority, I move to nominate and elect Representative Lawrence Defensor as Assistant Majority Leader, Vice Representative Tyron Agabas. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
Any objection? There being none, we have a new Assistant Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we consider bills under the calendar of business for Thursday and Friday. Mr. Speaker, pursuant to our rules, allow me to put forth an omnibus motion for the consideration of the following bills. House Bill number 8162 under Committee Report 635, House Bill 8163 under Committee Report 636, House Bill 8178 under Committee Report 640, House Bill 8188 under Committee Report 642, House Bill 8189 under Committee Report 644, House Bill 8190 under Committee Report 645, House Bill 8189 under Committee Report 646, House Bill number 8192 under Committee Report 647, House Bill 8193 under Committee Report 648, House Bill 8194 under Committee Report 649, House Bill 8195 under Committee Report 650, House Bill 8196 under Committee Report 651, House Bill 8197 under Committee Report 652,
House Bill number 8199 under Committee Report 653. House Bill 8200 under Committee Report 654. House Bill number 8204 under Committee Report 657. House Bill number 8205 under Committee Report 658. House Bill number 8206 under Committee Report 659. House Bill number 8208 under Committee Report 661. House Bill number 8209 under Committee Report 662. House Bill number 8212 under Committee Report 663. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Majority Leader, would you say that all of these measures pertain to one subject, or are there divergence of purpose and objective?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, they are
I
local.
noticed, the chair notices that one talks about a cruise ship destination. The other one talks about conversion. Establishing.
Yes, but under the rules, Mr. Speaker, these are local bills of...
Call for 1 minute recess. The Majority Floor Leader. Before we start, the Chair would like to compliment the Secretariat for clarifying the rules. The introduction of omnibus motions for approval of measures should pertain to only one subject. If it's a renaming of streets, they should all be bunched together. If it's a renaming of a place in any province of local application, they should be bunched together. But we cannot be approving in omnibus motions measures touch on different topics. One on tourism, the other one is on schools, hospital. They are all local in application, but they are of different nature. They should be bunched accordingly. With that, we thank the Secretariat and the Majority Floor Leader for his action on the matter. So with the pleasure of the body, Madam Floor Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we suspend approval of consideration and approval for second reading the items previously stated by the Deputy Majority Leader Aglipay. So, Mr. Speaker.
Any objection? Having none, what's the pleasure of the lady?
Mr. Speaker, I move for consideration on third reading House Bill number 8065, and for this purpose, direct the Secretary General to read the title of the bill. So move, Mrs. And thereafter, call the roll of members for nominal voting. So move, Mr. Speaker.
The Secretary General is directed to read the title and the heading of 8989 or 8065, and for him to call the roll thereafter for a nominal voting.
House Bill number 8065, an act imposing taxes on off-site betting activities on locally licensed games, adding a new section 125-A to the National Internal Revenue Code of 1997 as amended, and for other purposes. Roll call of members in consideration on third reading of House Bill number 8065. Abante, Abaya, Abellanosa, Abu, Abueg Zaldivar, Abunda, Acop, Acosta, Acosta Alba, Adjong, Advincula, Agabas, Agaraw, Aglipay, Aguinaldo, Albano, Almario, Alonte, Alvarez France, Alvarez Genaro, Alvarez Pantaleon, Amante Matba, Amatong, Angara, Aragones, Arbison, Arenas, Arroyo, Atienza, Aumentado, Babasa, Bagatching, Balindong, Banyas Nograles, Barba, Barbers, Baronda, Barzaga, Bascug, Bautista, Bautista Bandigan, Belmonte, Benitez, Bernos, Biazon, Billones, Biron, Bolilia, Bondok, Bordado, Bravo, Brosas, Bulut, Bustos, Kabatbat, Kabutsan, Cabredo, Cagas, Calderon, Calixto, Caminero, Campos, Canama, Kawagdan, Cardema, Cari, Castelo, Castro France, Castro Fredenil, Cayetano Alan Peter, Cayetano Mariela Arni, Celeste, Chato, Chipeco, Chungalaw, Co Angelica, Co Elizaldi, Cojuangco, Colyantes, Crisologo, Cua, Quaresma, Cueva, Culyamat, Dagook, Felipe, Dalog, Daza, De Jesus, De Venecia, Defensor Lawrence, Defensor Michael, De Los Santos, De Loso Montalia, Dimaporo Abdullah, Dimaporo Khalid, Duavit, Duhali, Duterte, D. Faustino Ino, D. Faustino Michael, D. Ian, Ebcas, Ecleo, Elago, Enverga, Erice, Erigel, Ermita Buhain, Escudero, Espina, Espino, Estrella, Fariñas Ria, Fariñas Rudis Cesar, Fernandez, Fernando, Ferrer Juliet, Ferrer Luis, Flores, Fortun, Fortuno, Frasco, Fuentebella, Gaite, Garbin, Garcia Jose Enrique, Garcia Pablo John, Garcia Vincent, Garin Janet, Garin Sharon, Gasataya, Gatchalian, Gato, Geron, Go Ed, Go Mark, Gonzaga, Gonzales Aurelio, Gonzales Neptali, Gonzales Sandro, Goriseta, Guico, Gulyas, Guya, Haresco, Ataman, Hernandez, Herrera D, Hoffer, Alosjos, Javier, Jimenez, Ko Elisa, Ko Wilton, Konghun, Labad-Labad, Lacson, Lacson Noel, Lagman, Lagon, Lara, Lazatin, Liachon, Legarda, Lim, Lim Kaichong, Lopez, Loyola, Lusotan, Makapagal Arroyo, Maceda, Madrona, Malapitan, Mangawang, Mangudadatu, Marcoleta, Mariano Hernandez, Marino, Marquez, Martinez, Matba, Matugas, Mendoza, Mercado, Momo, Natividad Naganyo, Nava, Nieto, Noel, Nograles Jericho, Nograles Juan, Nolasco, Nunez Malanyaon, Waminal, Olivares, Ong Jose, Ong Ronnie, Ordanes, Ortega, Uano Dizon, Pacquiao Alberto, Pacquiao Rogelio, Padiernos, Paduano, Palma, Pancho, Panotes, Peña, Pichay, Pimentel, Pineda, Plaza, Puno, Kimbo, Radaza, Ramirez Sato, Remulla, Revilla, Reyes, Rivera, Robes, Rodriguez, Roman, Romero, Romualdez Ferdinand, Romualdez Yeda, Romualdo, Romulo, Roque, Sakdalan, Sagarbaria, Sakaluran, Salceda, Salimbangon, Salo, Sanchez, Sangkopan, Santos Recto, Sarmiento, Saulog, Savellano, Xiao, Silverio, Singson, Singson Mihan, Sinsuat, Suansing Estrelita, Suansing Horacio, Suarez Aleta, Suarez David, Suntay, C. Alvarado, Taduran, Talyado, Tambunting, Tan Alaisa, Tan Angelina, Tan Samier, Tan Shari, Tan Sherny, Tejada, Teves Arnolfo, Teves Jose, Chanco, Tolentino, Torres Gomez, Tulfo, Tupas, Tutor, T. Alan, T. Diego, Umali Alfonso, Umali Maria Victoria, Unabia, Ungab, Uy Juliet, Uy Rolando, Valeriano, Valmayor, Vargas, Vargas Alfonso, Velasco, Veloso, Vergara, Villa, Villafuerte, Villanueva Eduardo, Villanueva Noel, Villar, Villaraza Suarez, Villarica, Violago, Yap Eric, Yap Victor, Yu, Zamora Ronaldo, Zamora Waikurat, Zarate Zubiri. Second call in consideration on third reading of House Bill number 8065. Abante, Abaya, Alonte, Alvarez Pantaleon, Amatong, Arenas, Aumentado, Bagaching, Banyas Nograles, Baronda, Bautista, Bernos, Biazon, Bulut, Bustos, Kanama, Kari, Castelo, Co Angelica, Ohuangco, Quaresma, Duavit, Ebcas, Ecleo, Ermita Buhain, Fariñas Rudis Cesar, Fernandez, Fortun, Gasataya, Go Ed, Gonzaga, Gonzales Aurelio, Guico, Guya, Haresco, Offer, Co Wilton, Konghun, Lacson, Marino, Matba, Mendoza, Mercado, Nava, Nograles Jericho, Nograles Juan, Nolasco, Nunez Malanyaon, Ortega, Pacquiao Alberto, Panotes, Pimentel, Pineda, Rivera, Romero, Romualdo, Silverio, Singson, Sinsuat, Suarez Aleta, Suarez David, C. Alvarado, Taduran, Talyado, Tan Alaisa, Tan Angelina, Tan Samier, Tan Shari, Tejada, Tolentino, Torres Gomez, Tulfo, T. Alan, Uy Juliet, Veloso, Villa, Villafuerte, Villanueva Eduardo, Villar, Villarasa Suarez, Villarica, Yap Victor.
With a vote of 215 members in the affirmative, 1 in the negative, and 0 abstention, House Bill number 8065 is hereby approved on third and final reading. Majority Leader.
Speaker, I move for consideration on third reading, House Bill number 7886, and for this purpose, direct the Secretary General to read the title of the bill and thereafter call the roll for nominal voting. So move, Mr. Speaker.
Secretary General, could you read the title of the bill?
House Bill number 7886, an act imposing stiffer penalties for the offenses of stealing or vandalizing of government road and traffic signs, warning devices, accessories, and other facilities. Roll call of members in consideration of House Bill number 7886 on third reading. Abante, Abaya, Abellanosa, Abu, Abueg Saldivar, Abunda, Acop, Acosta, Acosta Alba, Adyong, Advincula, Agabas, Agaraw, Aglipay, Aguinaldo, Albano, Almario, Alonte, Alvarez Franz, Alvarez Genaro, Alvarez Pantaleon, Amante Matba, Amatong, Angara, Aragones, Arbison, Arenas, Arroyo, Atienza, Aumentado, Babasa, Bagatsing, Balindong, Banyas Nograles, Barba, Barbers, Baronda, Barzaga, Bascug, Bautista, Bautista Bandigan, Belmonte, Benitez, Bernos, Biazon, Billones, Biron, Bolilia, Bondoc, Bordado, Bravo, Brosas, Bulot, Bustos, Kabatbat, Kabutsan, Cabredo, Cagas, Calderon, Calixto, Caminero, Campos, Canama, Kawagdan, Cardema, Cari, Castelo, Castro Franz, Castro Fredenil, Cayetano Alan Peter, Cayetano Mariela Arni, Celeste, Chato, Chipeco, Chungalao, Co Angelica, Co Elizaldi, Coanco, Colyantes, Crisologo, Cua, Quaresma, Cueva, Culyamat, Dagook, Dalipe, Dalog, Daza, De Jesus, De Venecia, Defensor Lawrence, Defensor Michael, De Los Santos, De Los Montalia, Dimaporo Abdullah, Dimaporo Khalid, Duavit, Duali, Duterte, D. Faustino Ino, D. Faustino Michael, D. Ian, Ebcas, Ecleo, Elago, Enverga, Erice, Erigel, Ermita Buhain, Escudero, Espina, Espino, Estrella, Fariñas Ria, Fariñas Rudy Cesar, Fernandez, Fernando, Ferrer Juliet, Ferrer Luis, Flores, Fortun, Fortuno, Frasco, Fuentebella, Gaite, Garbin, Garcia Jose Enrique, Garcia Pablo Jan, Garcia Vincent, Garin Janet, Garin Sharon, Gasataya, Gatchalian, Gato, Heron, Goed, Gomark, Gonzaga, Gonzales Aurelio, Gonzales Neptali, Gonzales Sandro, Goriseta, Guico, Gulias, Guya, Haresco, Hataman, Hernandez, Herrera Hofer, Haloshos, Javier, Jimenez, Ko Eliza, Ko Wilton, Kunghun, Labad-Labad, Lacson, Lacson-Noel, Lagman, Lagon, Lara, Lazatin, Liachon, Ligarda, Lim Kaichong, Lopez, Loyola, Lusotan, Macapagal Arroyo, Maceda, Madrona, Malapitan, Mangawang, Mangudadatu, Marcoleta, Mariano Hernandez, Marino, Marquez, Martinez, Matba, Matugas, Mendoza, Mercado, Momo, Natividad Naganyo, Nava, Nieto, Noel, Nograles Jericho, Nograles Juan, Nolasco, Nunez Malanyaon, Uaminal, Olivares, Ong Jose, Ong Ronnie, Ordanes, Ortega, Juano Dizon, Pacquiao Alberto, Pacquiao Rogelio, Padiernos, Paduano, Palma, Pancho, Panotes, Peña, Pichay, Pimentel, Pineda, Plaza, Puno, Kimbo, Radaza, Ramirez Sato, Remulla, Revilla, Reyes, Rivera, Robes, Rodriguez, Roman, Romero, Romualdez Ferdinand, Romualdez Sieda, Romualdo, Romulo, Roque, Sakdalan, Sagarbaria, Sakaluran, Salceda, Salimbangon, Salo, Sanchez, Sangkopan, Santos Recto, Sarmiento, Saulug, Savellano, Xiao, Silverio, Singson, Singson Mihan, Sinsuwat, Swansing Estrelita, Swansing Horacio, Suarez Aleta, Suarez David, Suntay, C. Alvarado, Taduran, Talyado, Tambunting, Tan Alaysa, Tan Angelina, Tan Samir, Tan Shari, Tan Sherny, Tejada, Teves Arnolfo, Teves Jose, Tiangco, Tolentino, Torres Gomez, Tulfo, Tupas, Chutor, T. Alan, T. Diego, Umali Alfonso, Umali Maria Victoria, Unabia, Ungab, Uy Juliet, Uy Rolando, Valeriano, Valmayor, Vargas, Vargas Alfonso, Velasco, Veloso, Vergara, Villa, Villafuerte, Villanueva Eduardo, Villanueva Noel, Villar, Villaraza Suarez, Villarica, Villago, Yap Eric, Yap Victor, Yu, Zamora Ronaldo, Zamora Waikurat, Zarate, Zubiri. Second call in consideration on third reading of House Bill Number 7886. Abante, Abaya, Alonte, Alvarez Pantaleon, Amatong, Arenas, Omentado, Bagatsing, Banyas Nograles, Baronda, Bautista, Bernos, Biazon, Pulot, Bustos, Canama, Cari, Castelo, Co Angelica, Coangco, Colliantes, Quaresma, Duavit, Ebcas, Ecleo, Ermita Buhain, Fariñas Rudy Cesar, Fernandez, Fortun, Goed, Gonzaga, Gonzales Aurelio, Vico, Guya, Haresco, Hofer, Co Wilton, Konghun, Lacson, Marinio, Matba, Mendoza, Mercado, Nava, Nograles Jericho, Nograles Juan, Nolasco, Nunez Malanyaon, Ortega, Pacquiao Alberto, Panotes, Pimentel, Pineda, Romero, Romualdo, Silverio, Singson, Sinsuwat, Suarez David, C. Alvarado, Taduran, Talyado, Tan Eliza, Tan Angelina, Tan Samir, Tan Shari, Tejada, Tolentino, Torres Gomez, Tulfo, T. Alan, Uy Juliet, Veloso, Villa, Villafuerte, Villar, Villaraza Suarez, Villarica, Yap Victor.
The vote of 222 members voting in the affirmative, 0 in the negative, and 0 abstention. House Bill number 7886, otherwise known as an act imposing stiffer penalties for the offenses of stealing or vandalizing of government, road, and traffic signs, warning devices, accessories, and other facilities. Is hereby approved on third reading.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we consider on third reading House Bill number 7951, and for this purpose, direct the Secretary General to read the title of the bill and thereafter call the roll of members for nominal voting. So move, Mr. Speaker.
Chair directs the Secretary General to read the title of the bill and call for a nominal voting.
House Bill number 7951, an act providing for protection of the remittances of overseas Filipino workers. Roll call of members in consideration on third reading of House Bill number 7951. Abante, Abaya, Abellanosa, Abu, Abueg Zaldivar, Abunda, Acop, Acosta, Acosta Alba, Adjong, Advincula, Agabas, Agaraw, Aglipay, Aguinaldo, Albano, Almario, Alonte, Alvarez Franz, Alvarez Genaro, Alvarez Pantaleon, Amante Matba, Amatong, Angara, Aragones, Arbison, Arenas, Arroyo, Atienza, Aumentado, Babaza, Bagaching, Balindong, Banyas Nograles, Barba, Barbers, Baronda, Barzaga, Baskug, Bautista, Bautista Bandigan, Belmonte, Benitez, Bernos, Biazon, Billones, Biron, Bolilia, Bondok, Bordado, Bravo, Brosas, Bulut, Bustos, Kabatbat, Kabuchan, Cabredo, Cagas, Calderon, Calixto, Caminero, Campos, Canama, Kawagdan, Cardema, Cari, Castelo, Castro Franz, Castro Fredenil, Cayetano Alan Peter, Cayetano Mariela Arni, Celeste, Chato, Chipeco, Chungalao, Co Angelica, Co Elizaldi, Coanco, Colyantes, Crisologo, Cua, Quaresma, Cueva, Culyamat, Dagook, Dalipe, Dalog, Daza, De Jesus, De Venecia, Defensor Lawrence, Defensor Michael, De Los Santos, De Loso Montalia, Dimaporo Abdullah, Dimaporo Khalid, Duavit, Duhali, Duterte, D. Faustino Ino, D. Faustino Michael, D. Ian, Ebcas, Ecleo, Elago, Enverga, Erice, Erigel, Ermita Buhain, Escudero, Espina, Espino, Estrella, Fariñas Ria, Fariñas Rudis Cesar, Fernandez, Fernando, Ferrer Juliet, Ferrer Luis, Flores, Fortuno, Frasco, Fuentebella, Gaite, Garbin, Garcia Jose Enrique, Garcia Pablo Jan, Garcia Vincent, Garin Janet, Garin Sharon, Gasataya, Gatchalian, Gato, Geron, Go Ed, Go Mark, Gonzaga, Gonzales Aurelio, Gonzales Neptali, Gonzales Sandro, Coriceta, Guico, Gulias, Guya, Haresco, Ataman, Hernandez, Herrera D, Offer, Alasos, Javier, Jimenez, Co Elisa, Co Wilton, Konghun, Labad-Labad, Lacson, Lacson Noel, Lagman, Lagon, Lara, Lazatin, Liachon, Ligarda, Lim, Lim Kaichong, Lopez, Loyola, Lusotan, Macapagal Arroyo, Maceda, Madrona, Malapitan, Mangawang, Mangudadato, Marcoleta, Mariano Hernandez, Marino, Marquez, Martinez, Matba, Matugas, Mendoza, Mercado, Momo, Natividad Naganyo, Nava, Nieto, Noel, Nograles Jericho, Nograles Juan, Nolasco, Nunez Malanaon, Guaminal, Olivares, Ong Jose, Ong Ronnie, Ordanes, Ortega, Juano Dizon, Pacquiao Alberto, Pacquiao Rogelio, Padiernos, Paduano, Palma, Pancho, Panotes, Peña, Pichay, Pimentel, Pineda, Plaza, Puno, Kimbo, Radaza, Ramirez Sato, Remulla, Revilla, Reyes, Rivera, Robes, Rodriguez, Roman, Romero, Romualdez Ferdinand, Romualdez Yeda, Romualdo, Romulo, Roque, Sakdalan, Sagar Baria, Sakaluran, Salceda, Salimbangon, Salo, Sanchez, Sangkopan, Santos Recto, Sarmiento, Saulog, Savillano, Shao, Silverio, Singson, Singson Mihan, Sinsuat, Swansing Estrelita, Swansing Horacio, Suarez Aleta, Suarez David, Suntay, C. Alvarado, Taduran, Talyado, Tambunting, Tan Alaisa, Tan Angelina, Tan Samir, Tan Shari, Tan Sherni, Tejada, Teves Arnolfo, Teves Jose, Chanco, Tolentino, Torres Gomez, Tulfo, Tupas, Tutor, T. Alan, T. Diego, Umali Alfonso, Umali Maria Victoria, Unabia, Ungab, Uy Juliet, Uy Rolando, Valeriano, Valmayor, Vargas, Vargas Alfonso, Velasco, Veloso, Vergara, Villa, Villafuerte, Villanueva Eduardo, Villanueva Noel, Villar, Villaraza Suarez, Villarica, Violago, Yap Eric, Yap Victor, Yu, Zamora Ronaldo, Zamora Waikurat, Zarate, Zubiri. Second call, in consideration on third reading of House Bill number 7951, Abaya, Alonte, Alvarez Pantaleon, Amatong, Arenas, Aumentado, Bagatsing, Banyas Nograles, Baronda, Bautista, Bernos, Biazon, Bulut, Bustos, Kanama, Cari, Castelo, Co Angelica, Cojuangco, Quaresma, Duavit, Ebcas, Ermita Buhain, Fariñas Rudis Cesar, Fernandez, Fortun, Go Ed, Gonzaga, Gonzales Aurelio, Guico, Guya, Haresco, Hoffer, Co Wilton, Konghun, Lacson, Marino, Matba, Mendoza, Mercado, Nava, Nograles Jericho, Nograles Juan, Nolasco, Nunez Malanaon, Ortega, Pacquiao Alberto, Panotes, Pimentel, Pineda, Romero, Silverio, Singson, Sinsuat, Suarez David, C. Alvarado, Taduran, Talyado, Tan Alaisa, Tan Angelina, Tan Samir, Tan Shari, Tejada, Tolentino, Torres Gomez, Tulfo, T. Alan, Uy Juliet, Veloso, Villa, Villafuerte, Villar, Villaraza Suarez, Villarica, Yap Victor.
With a vote of 224 members voting in the affirmative, 0 in the negative, and 0 abstention, House Bill number 7951, otherwise known as an act providing for protection of the remittances of overseas Filipino workers, is hereby approved on third and final reading. Honorable Rosas would like to explain her vote.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I vote yes to House Bill 7951 dahil sang-ayon po ang kinatawang ito sa panukalang protektahan ang mga remittances na ipinapasok sa bansa ng ating mga OFWs. Subalit, meron tayong reserbasyon dahil ang nais natin ay bigyang diin na dapat gawing prioridad ng ating gobyerno ang pagbibigay ng karampatang oportunidad sa trabaho at nakabubuhay na sahod dito sa ating bansa, kesa sa patuloy na pagtutulak ng ating mga kababayan na lumabas ng bansa. In 2019, remittances reached a record high of $33.5 billion, accounting for roughly 10% of GDP. Sa kasalukuyang kalagayan pa nga na nasa resesyon ng ating ekonomiya, pumapangatlo pa rin ang Pilipinas sa buong mundo sa nakikinabang sa remittances ng mga tinatawag nating bagong bayani. Ngunit bakit parang sila ay pinapabayaan pag nasa labas ng bansa? Halos araw-araw nating naririnig sa balita nitong mga nakaraang buwan ang mga kwento ng stranded na OFWs na humihingi ng saklolo sa ating gobyerno. Ilan ang stranded sa iba't ibang airport, naninirahan sa ilalim ng tulay at gayon din ang mga tila pinabayaan na sa quarantine facilities. Kahit sa huling bilang pa mismo ng Department of Foreign Affairs, pumapatak na mayroon pang 177,000 ang hindi pa rin nakababalik sa ating bansa na na-stranded dahil sa patuloy na pandemya. At sa bilang naman ng Department of Labor and Employment o DOLE, 478,838 o halos kalahating milyon ang bilang ng mga OFWs na apektado ng COVID-19. Halos kalahating milyon kabilang ang mga tinamaan ng virus. Ang mga exposed sa virus, ang mga namatay at kalakhan pa ay mga na-displace dahil sa mga nagsarang kumpanya na nagresulta sa kawalan nila ng pagkakakitaan. Hindi rin natin masisisi kung mayroong mga OFWs na talagang tumatangging umuwi kahit ganitong kalunos-lunos ang kanilang kalagayan dahil wala namang nakaabang sa kanila na magandang kinabukasan dito. Protektahan natin ang ating OFWs at hindi lamang ang mga remittances for boosting of our national economy. Hangad natin ang proteksyon ng kanilang karapatan at kabuhayan sa loob ng bansa, hindi sa labas na walang kasigurahan kung makakauwi pa ba sila sa kani-kanilang pamilya. Maraming salamat, Mr. Speaker.
The chair would like to ask the lady, Majority Floor Leader, if she voted for the measure or not.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I voted yes for the measure.
You voted for it?
Yes.
And what are you explaining that for?
Mr. Speaker, I have reservations with regards doon po sa mga hindi pa nakababalik sa ating bansa na mga OFWs at yung kanilang mga karapatan na hanggang ngayon ay hindi pa nalalabag pa rin at hindi pa rin naaasikaso ng ating pamahalaan. So we are just reiterating kung anong conditions meron ang ating mga OFWs sa labas ng bansa.
So you are in favor of the measure? You are in favor of the measure?
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Majority Floor Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we consider on third reading House Bill number 8005 and direct the Secretary General to read the title of the bill and thereafter call the roll of members for nominal voting. So move, Mr. Speaker.
Secretary General, could we read the title and please call for a nominal voting?
House Bill number 8005, an act institutionalizing the convergence strategy for sustainable rural development and providing the implementing mechanisms therefore. Roll call of members, consideration of House Bill number 8005. Abante, Abaya, Abellanosa, Abu, Abweg Saldivar, Abunda, Acop, Acosta, Acosta Alba, Adjong, Adbincula, Agabas, Agaraw, Aglipay, Aguinaldo, Albano, Almario, Alonte, Alvarez Franz, Alvarez Senaro, Alvarez Pantaleon, Amante Matba, Amatong, Angara, Aragones, Arbison, Arenas, Arroyo, Atienza, Aumentado, Babasa, Bagaching, Balindong, Banyas Nograles, Barba, Barbers, Baronda, Barsaga, Baskug, Bautista, Bautista Bandigan, Belmonte, Benitez, Bernos, Biason, Billones, Biron, Bulilla, Bondok, Bordado, Bravo, Brosas, Bulot, Bustos,
Speaker.
Kabatbat.
Mr. Speaker,
Honorable Brosas, sir.
Mr. Speaker, my vote is no, and I would like to explain my vote later.
We are voting no for what measure?
House Bill 8005, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, you'll be given a chance to explain your vote later.
Bulot, Bustos, Kabatbat, Kabochan, Cabredo, Cagas, Calderon, Calixto, Caminero, Campos, Canama, Kawagdan, Cardema, Cari, Castelo, Caso Franz, Caso Fredinil.
Sir Speaker, this representation vote no for 8005. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Noted. Please continue.
Cayetano Alan Peter, Cayetano Mariela Arni, Celeste, Chato, Chipeco, Chungalaw, Co Angelica, Co Elizaldi, Cuanco, Colyantes, Crisologo, Cuwa, Cuaresma, Cueva, Culyamat, Dagook, Dalipe, Dalog, Dasa, De Jesus, De Venecia, Defensor Lawrence, Defensor Michael, De Los Santos, De Los Montalia, Dimaporo Abdullah, Dimaporo Khalid, Duwabit, Duhali, Duterte, Di Faustino Ino, Di Faustino Michael, Di Ian, Ebcas, Ecleo, Elago, Enverga, Erice, Erigel, Ermita Buain, Escudero, Espina, Espino, Estrella, Fariñas Ria, Fariñas Rudy Cesar, Fernandez, Fernando, Ferrer Juliet, Ferrer Luis, Flores, Fortuno, Frasco, Fentebella, Gaite, Garbin, Garcia Jose Enrique, Garcia Pablo John, Garcia Vincent, Garin Janet, Garin Sharon, Gasataya, Gatchalian, Gato, Heron, Go Ed, Go Mark, Gonzaga, Gonzales Aurelio, Gonzales Neptali, Gonzales Sandro, Coriseta, Guico, Gullas, Guya, Haresco, Hataman, Hernandez, Herrera-D, Hofer, Halosos, Javier, Jimenez, Ko Elisa, Ko Wilton, Konghun, Labad-Labad, Lacson, Lacson Noel, Lagman, Lagon, Lara, Lasatin, Liachon, Ligarda, Lim Kaichong, Lopez, Loyola, Lusotan, Macapagal-Arroyo, Maceda, Madrona, Malapitan, Mangawang, Mangudadatu, Marculeta, Mariano Hernandez, Mariño, Marquez, Martinez, Matba, Matugas, Mendoza, Mercado, Momo, Natividad Nagaño, Nava, Nieto, Nograles Jericho, Nograles Juan, Nolasco, Nunez Malañaon, Guaminal, Olivares, Ong Jose, Ong Roni, Ordanes, Ortega, Juan Odison, Pacquiao Alberto, Pacquiao Rogelio, Padjernos, Paduano, Palma, Pancho, Panotes, Peña, Pichay, Pimentel, Plaza, Puno, Kimbo, Radasa, Ramirez Sato, Remulla, Revilla, Reyes, Rivera, Robes, Rodriguez, Roman, Romero, Romualdez Ferdinand, Romualdez Sieda, Romualdo, Romulo, Roque, Sakdalan, Sagarbaria, Sakaluran, Salceda, Salimbangon, Salo, Sanchez, Sangkopan, Santos Recto, Sarmiento, Saulog, Savillano, Siao, Silverio, Singson, Singson Mian, Swansing, Sinswat, Swansing Estrelita, Swansing Horacio, Suarez Aleta, Suarez David, Suntay, si Alvarado, Taduran, Talyado, Tambunting, Tanalisa, Tan Angelina, Tan Samir, Tan Shari, Tan Shirney, Tejada, Teves, Arnulfo, Teves Jose, Chanco, Tolentino, Torres Gomez, Tulfo, Tupas, Tutor, T. Alan, T. Diego, Umali Alfonso, Umali Maria Victoria, Unabia, Ungab, Uy Juliet, Uy Rolando, Valeriano, Valmarior, Vargas, Vargas Alfonso, Velasco, Veloso, Vergara, Villa, Villapuerte, Villanueva Eduardo, Villanueva Noel, Villar, Villarasa Suarez, Villarica, Bilago, Yap Eric, Yap Victor, Yu, Samoro Ronaldo, Samoro Waikurat, Sarate, Subiri. Second call, consideration House Bill number 8005. Abaya, Alonte, Alvarez Pantaleon, Amatong, Angara, Arenas, Aumentado, Bagaching, Banyas Nograles, Baronda, Bautista, Bernos, Biason, Bulot, Bustos, Canama, Cari, Castelo, Coangelica, Cuanco, Collantes, Cuaresma, Duabit, Ebcas, Ermita Buhayin, Fariñas Rudy Cesar, Fernandez, Fortun, Goed, Gonzaga, Guico, Guya, Haresco, Hofer, Co Wilton, Konghun, Lacson, Mariño, Matba, Mendoza, Mercado, Nava, Nograles Jericho, Nograles Juan, Nolasco, Núñez Maleñaon, Ortega, Paquiao Alberto, Panotes, Pimentel, Pineda, Romero, Silverio, Sinsuat, Suarez David, Si Alvarado, Taduran, Talyado, Tanalisa, Tan Angelina, Tan Samir, Tan Shari, Tejada, Tolentino, Torres Gomez, Tulfo, T. Alan, Uy Juliet, Veloso, Villa, Villapuerte, Villar, Villarasa Suarez, Villarica, Yap Victor.
With a vote of 219 members voting in the affirmative and 6 in the negative and 0 abstention, House Bill number 8005, known as an act institutionalizing the convergence strategy for sustainable rural development and providing for the implementing mechanisms, therefore, is hereby approved on third and final reading. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move to suspend for a few minutes.
There is a lady standing up. What's the pleasure of Congresswoman Brosas?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I would like to explain my no vote.
You would like to explain your vote?
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
We request the Majority Leader to allow the lady to explain her vote. The Chair gives her 3 minutes to finish it.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, ang representasyong ito ay bumoboto ng no sa House Bill 8005 o ang National Convergence Strategy for Sustainable Rural Development Act. Ang panukalang batas na ito ay magbubukas sa ating mga likas na yaman o ang itinuturing na convergence areas sa mga pribadong sektor, lalo na sa mga agro-enterprises at agribusinesses sa tabing ng rural partnerships. We are home to 66% of known mangrove species, 75% of the world's known coral species, and recognized as the second most diverse in terms of seagrass species. All these are constantly under threat from large-scale depletion, pollution, and conversion into steel and concrete infrastructure through reclamation. Coastal communities are the final destination of the various environmental impacts from ridge to reef. It is thus only natural that small fisherfolk are the natural nurturers and defenders of our coasts and seas against private businesses who want to use this bill to further push for their agenda. Dagdag pa rito, wala ring representasyon ang mga magsasaka, mangingisda, at mga katutubo sa bubuing 3 technical working group para sa implementasyon ng panukalang batas. Mr. Speaker, ang nais ng representasyong ito ay gamitin ang ating mga resources nang hindi nasasadlak ang ating mga magsasaka, mangingisda at katutubo. Gamitin sa isang makatarungan at makataong paraan. Ngunit base sa nilalaman ng panukalang batas na ito, na pagpapasok sa mga pribadong sektor, particular na sa mga agribusinesses, maaring magdulot ito ng pandarambong at pagkasira ng ating kalikasan. Therefore, the vote of this representation is no, Mr. Speaker. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you, Congresswoman Brosas. The chair recognizes the second member who requested to explain her vote via Zoom, Congresswoman Eufemia Kulyamat. The chair recognizes Congresswoman Kulyamat. We give you 3 minutes to explain your vote.
Mr. Speaker, no ang boto ng representasyong ito sa House Bill number 8005 dahil sa tabing ng Sustainable Rural Development, ang laman ng panukalang batas sa esensya ay ang pagpapadulas ng pagpasok ng mga agribusiness at private sector investment sa ating mga susing area sa produksyon ng pagkain. Bagamat sinasabi ng panukalang batas na ito ay magpapatupad sa Sustainable Integrated Development Approach, wala naman itong mga safeguards sa pagtitiyak na ito ay susundin ng mga agribusiness at private investment na pinapapasok nito sa mga area ng produksyon. Kung titignan lamang ang karanasan ng mga magsasaka at manggagawang bukid sa mga large-scale agribusiness plantation sa Mindanao. Sa halip na bigyang diin ang konserbasyon ng makamasang paggamit ng rekurso, ang mga key production area sa kanayunan ay magiging mas vulnerable sa pagkasira at pandarambong sa ating inang kalikasan. Dahil dito, no ang boto ng representasyong ito sa House Bill number 8005. Maraming salamat, Ginoong Speaker.
Thank you, Congresswoman Kulyamat. Majority Floor Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that all the House bills approved on third and final reading today be immediately transmitted to the Senate. So move, Mr. Speaker.
Any objection?
Mr. Speaker, I move to suspend session for a few minutes.
Session suspended.
Session resumed. Majority Leader.
We ask Congressman Strike Revilla from Cavite to rise to the rostrum where the Speaker shall administer the oath of office as the new Deputy Speaker of the House of Representatives, to be witnessed by his lovely wife, Shay, and his family.
Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Strike Bautista Revilla,
Of 305 Aguinaldo Highway, Panapaan 7, City of Bacoor, Cavite.
of 305 Aguinaldo Highway, Panapaan 7, City of Bacoor, Cavite,
Having been elected as Deputy Speaker, 18th Congress,
having been elected as Deputy Speaker, 18th Congress,
hereby solemnly swear
hereby solemnly swear
that I will well and faithfully discharge,
that I will well and faithfully discharge,
to the best of my ability,
the best of my ability,
the duties of my present position
the duties of my present position,
and of all others I may hereafter hold
and all of others I may hereafter hold
under the Republic of the Philippines,
under the Republic of the Philippines,
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the Philippines,
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the Philippines,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same,
that I will bear the true faith and allegiance to the same,
and that I will obey the laws, legal orders, and decrees
and that I will obey the laws, legal orders, and decrees
promulgated by the duly constituted authorities of the Republic of the Philippines,
promulgated by the duly constituted authorities of the Republic of the Philippines,
and that I impose this obligation upon myself voluntarily
and that I impose this obligation upon myself voluntarily
without mental reservation or purpose of evasion.
without mental reservation or purpose of evasion.
Help me God.
So help me God.
Session suspended.
He is Rimpy. Lakas. Boss, lakas ka na. Boss.
Session is resumed. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we consider the bills under the calendar of business for Thursday and Friday. Mr. Speaker, pursuant to the rules, allow me to put forth an omnibus motion for the consideration of the following. House Bill 8162 under Committee Report 635, House Bill 8163 under Committee Report 636, House Bill 8178 under Committee Report 640, House Bill 8188 under Committee Report 642, House Bill 8189 under Committee Report 644. House Bill 8190 under Committee Report 645. House Bill 8191 under Committee Report 646. House Bill 8192 under Committee Report 647. House Bill 8193 under Committee Report 648. House Bill 8194 under Committee Report 649. House Bill 8195 under Committee Report 650. House Bill 8196 under Committee Report 651. House Bill 8197 under Committee Report 652. House Bill 8199 under Committee Report 653. House Bill 8200 under Committee Report 654. House Bill 8204 under Committee Report 657. House Bill 8205 under Committee Report 658. House Bill 8206 under Committee Report 659. House Bill 8208 under Committee Report 661. House Bill 8209 under Committee Report 662 and House Bill 8212 under Committee Report 663. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
Would the Majority Leader please repeat the bills being approved on second reading?
Mr. Speaker, I move that we consider the respective explanatory notes as the sponsorship of the following said measures.
Invoking Section 57 of our rules, Omnibus motion for the approval on second reading of local bills. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those against, say nay. All the bills mentioned, with no objection, the ayes have it. All bills mentioned by our floor leader are approved on second reading. Floor leader?
Mr. Speaker, under the calendar of business for the day, I move that we consider House Bill number 8202 under Committee Report 655 and direct the Secretary General to read the title of the bill. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
The Secretary General is so directed to read the title of House Bill 8202.
House Bill number 8202, an act mandating the proper installation and maintenance of overhead electric distribution, communication lines and structures by all electric distribution, cable and telecommunications companies for purposes of public safety and good housekeeping.
Floor Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we recognize the chairperson of the Committee on Energy to begin sponsorship of the said measure.
Our esteemed chairman of the Committee of Energy, my kinakapatid and kabalen from the 2nd District of Pampanga, the Honorable Juan Miguel Macapagal Arroyo, is recognized for his sponsorship of the measure.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I move that the explanatory note be adopted as the sponsorship speech.
Floor Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we open the period of amendments.
Floor Leader, let us first close the period of sponsorship.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we move with the period of interpellation.
Mr. Speaker, the sponsor is recognized. Floor Leader, the Speaker is recognized already for his sponsorship. We are in the period of sponsorship and debate on the measure.
Considering that there are no interpellations on the said measure, I move that we terminate the period of sponsorship and debate.
Hearing no objection, motion is carried. Sponsorship and debate on the measure is closed. Floor Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we open the period of amendments.
There is a motion to open the period of amendments. Hearing no objection, Motion is carried. Floor Leader.
Mr. Speaker, there being no other committee and individual amendments, I move that we now consider close the period of amendments.
Hearing no objection, motion is carried. Period of amendments is closed. Floor Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we vote on second reading House Bill number 8202. And I so move, Mr. Speaker.
There is a motion to approve on second reading House Bill 8202. All those in favor, please say aye. All those against, please say nay. The ayes have it. House Bill 8202 is approved on second reading. Congratulations to the honorable sponsor. Floor Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we consider House Bill number 8203 under Committee Report number 656 and direct the Secretary General to read the title of the bill. So move, Mr. Speaker.
Secretary General is directed to read the title of House Bill 8203.
House Bill number 8203, an act promoting the use of microgrid systems to accelerate the total electrification of unserved and underserved areas nationwide.
Floor Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we open the period of sponsorship and debate. So move, Mr. Speaker.
Floor Leader, let us recognize first our sponsor.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we recognize the chairperson of the Committee on Energy, the Honorable Juan Miguel Arroyo of Pampanga for his sponsorship of the measure. So move, Mr. Speaker.
Our esteemed sponsor, the honorable gentleman from the 2nd District of Pampanga, our chair of the Committee on Energy, the Honorable Juan Miguel Macapagal Arroyo, is recognized. Floor Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I move that we adopt the explanatory note as the sponsor's speech.
Floor Leader.
Mr. Speaker, there being no members who wish to interpellate the sponsor, I move that we close the period of the sponsorship and debate. So move, Mr. Speaker.
Hearing no objection, the motion is carried. Period of sponsorship and debate is closed. Floor Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we open the period of amendments.
Hearing no objection, the motion is carried.
Mr. Speaker, there being no committee amendments, I move that we proceed with the period of individual amendments.
Hearing no objection, motion is approved.
Mr. Speaker, there being no member who wishes to introduce individual amendments, I move that we close the period of individual amendments. So move, Mr. Speaker.
Hearing no objection, the motion is approved. Period of amendments is closed. Floor Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we close the period of amendments.
Hearing no objection, the motion is approved. Floor Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we vote on second reading, House Bill number 8203. So move, Mr. Speaker.
There is a motion for the approval on second reading of House Bill 8203. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those against, please say nay. The ayes have it. House Bill 8203 approved on second reading. Congratulations to the esteemed sponsor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, dear colleagues. Thank you very much.
Floor Leader.
A few minutes suspension, Mr. Speaker.
Session is suspended. Congratulations, kinakapatid. My boss.
Mr. Speaker.
Session is resumed. Floor Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we resume consideration of House Bill number 7700 contained in Committee Report 508, and please direct the Secretary General to read the title of the bill. So, Mr. Speaker.
The Secretary General is directed to read the title of House Bill 7770.
House Bill number 7700, an act reapportioning the first legislative district of the City of Caloocan into 2 legislative districts.
Floor Leader.
Mr. Speaker, the parliamentary status of House Bill number 7700 is that we are in the period of sponsorship and debate. And I move that we recognize the Honorable Noel Villanueva, the Chairman of the Committee on Local Government. So move, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, may I be recognized?
The Honorable Chairman of the Committee on Local Government, Honorable Noel Villanueva, is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we recognize the Honorable Representative Edgar Irese of Caloocan to continue his interpellation. So move, Mr. Speaker.
The Honorable Egay Erice of Caloocan is recognized to interpellate the sponsor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Chairman of the Committee on Local Government. I don't want to belabor issue. I just would like to ask a series of 3 questions. Mr. Chairman, gusto ko lang pong malaman kung naitanong niyo ba doon sa main proponent ng nasabing panukalang batas, bakit po gusto niyang napakaliit ng isang distrito? Bakit naman po yung isang distrito napakalaki? Nagtataka po ako, bakit po gusto niyang napakaliit yung isang distrito? Ano po ba yung logic no?
Mr. Speaker, may I be recognized, Mr. Speaker?
Honorable Chairman, you have the floor to respond to the Honorable Erice.
Yes, apparently the figures shows a disparity, a big disparity in the population sizes of the districts. However, in long line of cases decided by the Supreme Court, it stated that the Constitution does not require mathematical exactitude or rigid equality as a standard engaging equality of representation. This was cited in a case, Bagubayo versus Comelec, Mr. Speaker. What the Constitution requires is that every legislative district should comprise, as far as practicable, contiguous, compact and adjacent territory, Mr. Speaker. So with that, I don't see any legal infirmity if ever the mother district will have a population of 893,222 population, and while the proposed third legislative district is only 300,197, Mr. Speaker. The Supreme Court jurisprudence on this matter answers all those queries by the Honorable Erice, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. But, Mr. Speaker, there is a good chance that if we will just reapportion it, bakit hindi natin gawing compact, contiguous? Pwede naman contiguous. Anong dahilan? Bakit ayaw nating samantalahin yung pagkakataon na ito ng reapportionment ng legislative district ng Caloocan para maging contiguous yung isang distrito?
Mr. Speaker, Merong peculiarity ang City of Caloocan dahil nga sa nangyaring mga batas na naipasa nung nakaraan pa na kung saan napaghiwalay ang Caloocan sa dalawang bahagi. Ano po, naging Caloocan North at saka Caloocan South. Maaring ang tinatanong ng ating gagalang-galang na interpellator yung adjacent sa 2nd Legislative District, bakit hindi yun ang gawing
Tama po.
3rd Legislative District? Ganun po ba?
Tama po.
Para nang sa gayon, yung Caloocan North ay magkaroon ng iisang distrito lamang.
Tama po.
Ganun ang naiintindihan ko po ang inyong presumption doon. Pero katulad nung nasagot ko sa inyo kanina, ang House Bill 770 po na tatalagapan ng pangatlong distrito para sa Caloocan ay para po sa Caloocan Northeast, hindi po para doon sa kapitbahay ng 2nd District ng Caloocan. Hindi ko po I cannot delve or I will not fathom on the wisdom of the proposed law. Ito po ang inihingi ng batas and it complies with all legal and statutory requirements. Paikot-ikot lang po ang sagot namin Ako ay walang pinangangambahan na meron tayong nilalabag na batas o constitutional provision kung may pasaman ang House Bill 7700.
Actually, Mr. Speaker, it's up to the courts to determine whether we are violating a constitutional provision. As far as I am concerned, we are violating the principle of legislative proportionality. We are violating a provision that would require that a legislative district must be as much as practicable contiguous. At tingin ko po, meron pang isa. Bakit po natin pinaghihiwalay yung mga existing communities? Yun po ang gusto ko po itanong sa inyo. Yung Kamarin, yan po ay isang dating barangay. Alam nyo, 15 years old pa lang po ako, ay pangulo na ako ng kabataang barangay ng Caloocan. I've been serving Caloocan for the past 45 years.
Alisin mo nga sa automatic na kwan.
I've been serving Caloocan for the past 45 years. Kaya alam ko po yung istorya. Wala pang tao dyan sa mga lugar na yan ay nakakarating pa na ako dyan. Teenager pa po ako, nakakarating na ako. Yung Kamarin po, dati isang pong barangay. Ngayon po, hinati po yan sa 4. So, yung mga nakatira po dyan, halos magkakamag-anak. Ngayon po, dahil dito sa batas na ito, yung isang barangay, inihiwalay ng batas na ito ng ibang district. Yun naman pong yung Tala, Barrio Tala, dati po, kasama po dyan yung Bagong Silang. Yan po yung pinanggalingan ng barangay Bagong Silang, the biggest barangay in the Philippines. Dati po walang nakatira dyan, bulubundukin yan. Ngayon po, dahil yan po ay naging relocation center, dumami po yung tao. Kaya po hiniwalay sa Tala yung Bagong Silang. Pero yan po, sa kasaysayan po, yan po ay part ng Tala. Ngayon po, bakit natin pinaghihiwalay yung dating mga magkakasama ng communities dahil lang dito sa provision na ito hindi ko makita kung ano yung reason Kaya Mr. Speaker, gusto ko lang po malaman sa inyo, anong reason bakit pinaghihiwalay itong mga communities na ito?
Mr. Speaker, kung akin po sasagutin yon, hanggang ngayon po ay wala pa po tayong batas na nagtatalaga ng mga pamantayan sa pagbuo ng isang distritong panglehislatura. Hindi po nangangahulugan na yung binanggit na barangay ng ating distinguished interpellator, kung magbubuo ng bagong distrito, kailangan silang magkakasama-sama. Wala pa pong pamantayan sa ganun. Ang pamantayan po ay yung nakasaad sa Section 5, Article 6 ng ating Konstitusyon. Yun lamang po ang tanging pamantayan. At pag hindi po tayo lumabag doon, ay tayo po ay compliant at pwede pong maitayo ang isang panibagong distrito. Yun lang po ang sagot ko doon, Mr. Speaker.
Salamat po, Mr. Speaker. Naninindigan po ang kinatawan na ito ng ikalawang distrito ng Caloocan na napakarami pong pagkakamali dito sa reapportionment na ito. Gagawa po ito po sana'y pagkakataon para maitama ang isang mali ng dahil ngayon po ay underrepresented ang first district of Caloocan. 1.2 million ang population. Dahil dito sa paghahati na ito na 300,000 at 900,000, yun pong District 1 will still be underrepresented. Pangalawa po, naniniwala ako na dapat po tiningnan yung historical affinity ng mga barangay na ito. Naniniwala po ako na hindi dapat pinaghahati-hati ng kongresong ito yung mga communities na dati nang magkakasama. Tatlo, naniniwala po ako na walang logic sa paghahati na ito. Maliban sa simple political accommodation to preserve a political dynasty in Caloocan City. Maraming salamat po.
Maraming salamat, Mr. Speaker. Maraming salamat sa kagalang-galang na Egay Erice sa kanyang mga interpellation. Mr. Speaker, if kung wala na pong interpellator,
Floor Leader?
Mr. Speaker, there being no other members who wishes to interpellate the sponsor, I move that we close the period of sponsorship and debate. So move, Mr. Speaker.
Hearing no objection, the motion is carried. Period of sponsorship and debate is closed. Floor Leader?
Mr. Speaker, I move that we open the period of amendment. So move, Mr. Speaker.
Mr.
Hearing no
Speaker,
objection, the motion is carried. What is the pleasure of the gentleman from Caloocan?
I would like to propose an amendment.
At the proper time,
Thank you.
gentlemen, let's proceed with that. Hearing no objection, the period of amendments is opened. Floor Leader?
Mr. Speaker, there being no committee amendments, I move that we proceed with the individual amendments. So move, Mr. Speaker.
Hearing no objection, the motion is carried. Period of individual amendments is open. Floor Leader?
Mr. Speaker, there being no member who wishes to introduce individual amendments.
Mr. Speaker, I would like to introduce an amendment.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we recognize the Honorable Edgar Erice for his individual amendment. So move, Mr. Speaker.
The Honorable Egay Erice is recognized for his amendment.
Mr. Speaker, my amendment is simple. To make it proportional, I move and in order not to destroy the historical affinity to barangays, I would like to propose an amendment that Barangay 178, Camarin, should remain in District 1 together with the other Camarin barangays.
I'm losing signal. Lipat mo.
And Bagong Silang. Instead, Bagong Silang should be included in the proposed District 3 because it is part of the Tala Estate. And it would, at least, there will be a semblance of proportionality in terms of area and population that would make around 750,000 population for District 1 and 450,000 population for District 3. That's my proposed amendment, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Sponsor, can we hear your response to the amendment of the Honorable Erice? Honorable Sponsor.
Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker.
Please proceed, Honorable Sponsor. You have the floor.
Yes, with due respect to the Honorable Erice, I would decline his amendment. As I have been explaining the proportional representation based on population on a particular legislative district is not the only determinant factor, Mr. Speaker. Wala pa pong pamantayan, wala pa pong batas na nagsasabing kailangan pantay-pantay ang pagkakahati ng mga distrito. Kung kaya ako po'y nalulungkot at hindi ko po kayang tanggapin yung amendment na pinapaloob ni Congressman Irice sa proposed bill, House Bill number 7700. Mr. Speaker.
The remarks of the chair are well noted. Floor leader.
Mr. Speaker, we join the sponsor in his position to the individual amendments proposed by Honorable Edgar Erice. So move, Mr. Speaker.
With that, the amendment is lost. Floor leader.
Mr. Speaker, there being no other member who wishes to introduce individual amendments, I move that we close the period of amendments. So move, Mr. Speaker.
Hearing no objection, the motion is carried. The period of amendments is closed. Floor
Mr.
leader.
Speaker, I move that we approve on second reading House Bill number 7700. So move, Mr. Speaker.
There is a motion for the approval on second reading of House Bill 7700. All those in favor, please say aye. All those against, please say nay. The ayes have it. House Bill 7700 approved on second reading. Congratulations to our honorable sponsor. Floor leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we adjourn session until 3 p.m. of December, to suspend session for a few minutes.
Session is suspended. Session is resumed. Floor Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move for the consideration of House Resolution number 1420 and direct the Secretary General to read the title of the resolution. So move, Mr. Speaker.
Secretary General is directed to read the title of the resolution.
House Resolution number 1420, resolution commending the late Don Conrado A. Escudero for dedicating his life towards the protection and preservation of the country's rich cultural heritage, history, customs, and natural beauty.
Mr. Speaker, I move for the adoption of House Resolution number 1420. So move, Mr. Speaker.
Hearing no objection, our resolution is adopted. Floor Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move for the change of referral of the following measures. House Bill number 1621, creating a body corporate to be known as the Western Philippines Medical Center, from the Committees on Government Enterprises and Privatization and Health to the Committee on Health. House Bill number 5182, establishing feeding centers in every city or municipality, from the Committee on Social Services to the Special Committee on Food Security. House Bill numbers 1255, 3630, and 7634, providing for the promotion of film and television tourism, from the Committee on Public Information to the Special Committee on Creative Industry and Performing Arts. House Resolution number 1385, resolution condemning the senseless killing of Attorney Joey Louis Wee, from the Committee on Rules to the Committee on Public Order and Safety. So move, Mr. Speaker.
Any objection? Hearing none, the motion is carried. Floor
Mr.
Leader.
Speaker, I move that we include additional co-authors to House Bills numbers 7460, 8149, 8164, 8179, 8202, 8203, 8207, 8216, 8162, 8163, 8178, 8188, 8189, 8190, 8191, 8192, 8193, 8194, 8195, 8196, 8197, 8199, 8200, 8204, 8205, 8206, 8208, 8209, and 8212, and House Resolutions number 1409, 1411, and 1417, as contained in the list to be submitted by the Committee on Rules. So move, Mr. Speaker.
Any objections? Hearing none, the motion is approved. Floor Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move to suspend session until 3 p.m. tomorrow, December 16, 2020. So move, Mr. Speaker.
With no objection, session is suspended until tomorrow, December 16, 3 p.m.